good. This is dedicated to all the kids like me.
It's an everyday process in trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Man, my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or a 40, 45. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast, right? So I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more.
I'm just being honest. See how I'm double checking everything. Are we recording?
I'm the same way every single episode. I'm triple checking every goddamn thing.
In case you want to feel at home.
I love it.
Let me give you a beautiful introduction.
Now, is this going to come off?
I don't know. I just see what you do on your podcast. And I said, he has a coffee mug, and I think he Sharpies it himself.
It's not a Sharpie I use. Or is it? It's a thick. It's not like this kind. I don't remember if it's a Sharpie. I can't even remember. But whatever. That's fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Brandon. This is the Brandon and Daniel podcast. And to my left in the studio today is a journalist, an investigator, a creator, a director, a video editor, a photographer, a manager, a boxer, a cousin, a nephew, a dog dad, a son, and now I hope a friend, bro.
Dude, already I'm signed up, man.
Yep.
It's great to be here. That was the nicest intro anyone's ever given me. Half of it's not true.
It's not done either. He's helped strangers as well as his community. He questions everyone and anything. A one-man media empire. He has billions of views across his various platforms. He is one of the top 100 podcasters in the United States. Top 2065 on Spotify. An expert in communication, a master in conversation, a specialist in hard work. He is constantly innovating and improving his voice. I want to thank you for your time and being here today. The host and producer of the Julian Dorey Podcast, New Jersey's very own, the grittiest producer in podcasting, Julian Dorey.
Thank you. You can write my eulogy if I ever go. That was phenomenal right there.
Extra,
I do want to say shout out to Alessi Allaman, who has been building with me. He's been with me basically full time since May 2023, and he started a fan page in August 2022. Okay. Moved up here to Jersey with me. So yeah, I mean the show is obviously like I'm hosting and everything, but behind the scenes, like it's been his project every bit as much for the last couple of years. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. So
what does he actually like do for the pod?
Oh, bro, like we're all blocking and tackling. He and I are just whatever the fuck is happening, we're doing. The thing that he's been killer on is, you know, I have like a few channels. Of course. So 2 of those channels he really spearheaded and crushed. The second one, Julian Dorey Clips. Okay. He set up that system that we have now. Wow. Like he figured something out last August.
Is that isn't that your second biggest page as well?
Yeah. It's got like 440 some
Congrats
subs.
On 900K, subs.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So that second one has like 440K. That's him. And then the third one we do a 1 hour version of the podcast. Okay. So for people who don't want to see 3-hour podcasts, basically every podcast I do has like 3 podcasts in it. Okay. So Alessi will cut that up and put that out. It's called Julian Dorey Daily, and he's got that over 100,000 subs as well. So he kills it. Absolutely kills it back there.
Oh, you guys are doing an amazing job. Yeah,
thank you.
In the intro, I put one-man media. I should have put 2.
Well, that's why I'm saying it. You know, there's a lot, and you know what?
That stuck out to you a lot. Out of everything I said, you were like, no, we got to correct this. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think people see all these shows, and there's so many great shows out there, and guys who do a great job, and obviously, like, you got to go out and host it and do all that. But there's usually some really talented people as well behind the scenes who have been bought in for a while. And at least in all the shows that I've had a chance to see up close, like there's some really great people as well. So I think that's got to get shout out. I mean, you're behind the scenes on a couple of big shows as well.
Yeah, very behind.
So you get it.
I do get it, but I don't get the what you just did for your producer backside the scene guy. I don't get that from my behind the scenes.
That's all right. It'll come.
Exactly.
It'll come.
I need to keep putting myself out there. Yeah. Honestly.
Well, you're doing it right now. That's how you do it, man. Yeah. Do your own show.
Would you be interested on going on one of those? The reason I didn't invite you to one of those comedy shows, those shows are serious. Like, they say a lot. They say a lot of offensive and crazy things on those networks, and I don't know if people have brand deals and sponsorships and things that they're worried about, or future reputations that they don't. I'm just being completely forefront.
Yeah.
That they do not go on the Legion of Skanks for those reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about what you say. With guys like that, I'm going in there. They're the talent.
Yeah.
On the comedy front, I'm just there to laugh.
Yeah. You know what it is also?
I think that's easy.
You're your own boss.
Right.
You don't have SAG or a group of
that's right.
overarching business people who are telling you what to do at every
That's
moment.
right. Yeah.
So I feel like you can do exactly. You're open to do anything you like.
Yeah, that's been a nice freedom to have. It's not like, I'm not out here doing crazy risky shit or whatever, but the bar of like what's risky is so low these days. Like anything. I mean, you talk about one of the wars going on in the world. Oh, that's risky. Yeah. Whenever we do that stuff, there's that thought now isn't really a thing. And like the people that I have around me in various capacities, just like helping out with little things here and there, it's like no one has ever cared, which is great.
Hello there. I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely, beautiful podcast, but a quick reminder to like, follow, and subscribe. You can get the full video versions on YouTube and Spotify. You can get the social media on X, TikTok, Instagram. If you like what we're doing, share this with a friend. If not, who cares about you? Now let's get back into the show.
Have you ever thought about? I know you're friends with Chami G and a bunch of other another guy, Brandon. What's his name?
Buckingham. Yeah.
And these guys do exactly what we're saying. They do crazy, outlandish, visit Chicago's top hoods.
Brandon got shot.
He got shot.
Oh, you didn't see this?
I did not see this.
Brandon is, first of all, like salt of the earth, dude. Love that guy.
Yeah.
But like he goes to Chicago. I don't even remember what the video was they were going there to shoot, but checking up with one of the gangs. It wasn't
normal stuff.
Yeah, normal stuff for him.
Normal Tuesday.
I don't think it was in O Block, but don't quote me on that. You can Google the video I'm talking about and watch it on YouTube where it turned into a whole different type of documentary. Okay. So he called me up like almost nonchalant, maybe 2-3 weeks after this happened. He's like, yeah, I got shot in Chicago. I'm like, you what? I mean, you got shot. And he's like, yeah, bro, shit was crazy. I'm like, wait, back up. He's like, yeah, my producer took one to the jaw. Like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, I bought him a car. It's cool. I'm like, all right, maybe I should get shot. He can buy me a car. But anyway, so he was, I think it was, like, it's an amazing video that he ended up putting out with all the behind the scenes because the cameras were rolling when all this happened. But he was hanging out with a few of these guys, like listening to music or whatever. And I think they went live or something and said, I'm with Brandon Buckingham. And when they walked out of studio, I guess like the worst shooters in the history of shooting were there waiting for them. There was, I don't know how many, I can't remember. Maybe it was 4, maybe it was 5. They fired like 65 bullets and the motherfuckers hit like 1. And luckily, inshallah, it didn't kill his producer. Kid was the producer literally got shot and kept filming, which you want to talk about behind the scenes guys not getting the credit. Like, whoa, that was amazing. Yeah, he was back. He was like, he was back working right away after that. But it's scary because, they do some crazy shit, but they're covering real stories. Like, I don't think, this is just my opinion, I don't think Tommy and Brandon, and I mean this as a compliment, I don't think they really take risks with the stories they cover. I think they take risks with the places they go to cover those stories, as we see now what's happened. I mean, I think yes. I've seen Tommy wear, and maybe Brandon's done this too, I just can't remember. I've seen Tommy wear bulletproof vests to places he goes. Because, like and they'll tell you, usually, notwithstanding this last little mishap in Chicago, like they usually feel pretty safe when they go, because it's almost like journalists, no touching, and everyone's like,
they've spoken to somebody, so they know.
Yeah, that old like Bloods and Crips meme where they're holding up it's almost like that. Like, oh, Tommy G's here. We're not going to shoot each other today. But then you run into a few people who, maybe they take a little PCP and feel good about the world or bad about the world. Right? And they do that. So that was definitely scary. I'm glad Brandon and his guys are okay.
Would you ever consider doing something like that? I feel like you have the potential to do. I feel like before you started the podcast, you told yourself you could have did vlogging, anything. And
Yeah.
you just blew my mind with that. I feel like these guys do put themselves in more of a risky position of their physical body.
Yes, that's
But
right.
I feel like your conversations and your topics are just as dangerous, if, in a way. Not dangerous, but just as informative and exposing and relatable.
I think it can get. I'll bring in a lot of these intel guys, right?
Exactly.
Because my thought there is like there's such a people are so wary, righteously so, of the intel community online, as am I. And so I thought it was a cool thing in my show where I could bring in these people and put them in front of the camera. And audience is smart. You know, you hear what they have to say. You hear shit that's like, all right, that makes sense. Then you hear shit like, that's bullshit.
Very true.
You know what I mean? And now it's on the record and everyone can see it. And I get along with all of them, but I would say some of that stuff is probably the only stuff where it's like, I guess it gets a little risky, but I'm so used to it now that it doesn't feel that way.
For the common folk, you're pushing the boundaries of conversations and doing the things that you're asking the questions to people that we want to ask the questions to.
That's good to hear. That's what I would hope to do.
No, of course. Going back to the Alessi thing, I just wanted to, with that intro, seriously, I wanted to give you your flowers. Okay, I feel like you're mad humble. I wanted to show you, bro, you are one of the biggest podcasters in the world.
We're
no
trying.
exaggeration. As much as you don't feel that way, you are.
I appreciate that a lot. I don't know. I don't really. I have so far to go, and I think it's also because I don't know the tragedy of seeing it behind the scenes and seeing how tenuous things are.
You see how the sausage
day to day. You know, we have good revenue coming in now. It just kind of goes right back out again, and I don't have enough to go back out to really invest. You know, like I got to invest in building Instagram, for example. I've never really done that. You know. And now I had a conversation this week with my guy, Jimmy Contrini, to look at doing that. But like, you know, it's a bootstrap organization and I do take a lot of pride in that. It's cool. Like we're the underdogs. I started this in my parents' house with no online fame, no previous expertise in anything, let alone like how to do a podcast. I teach myself that. And, you know, a backwards hat and no money. And it's like, you're not supposed to make it doing that. But that was never an option. It was always like, we'll figure it out.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah, I've always had a problem with, I tell myself I'm not good at everything. I'm getting better at that, you know, because you don't want to err on the other side of like, I'm good at everything. And then you're bragging about it. But I was able, in the 6 months I spent hunkered down building the show before I launched it publicly, when I was just building it around the clock, you know, I'd be recording, and the first times you're editing yourself, you know, it's cringy as fuck. And I got news for people, for most of you, I would assume, it stays cringy. Like, you get used to it, but to this day, I'm like, oh, God, jeez. Like, sometimes when I'm going through something, I'm like, why did I say it like that?
Yeah.
But I did have a moment, it's probably like midsummer 2020, shortly before we went public, where I was editing late at night, and I kind of, I don't know, for 10, 15 minutes, it was a solo episode, so it's just me talking.
Okay.
I got lost while I was clicking, just actually listening to it, which I'd never really been able to do before.
Meaning you got lost in the moment of yourself.
Yeah. And I sat back, and I just remember looking at it, you know, realizing I had burned the boats here, and this was going to be a crazy journey, however the fuck this was going to work. But I looked at it, and I said, okay, I can do this. Like, this is, I have a talent for this, and I can get a lot better. But
what did you do before the podcast?
Before the podcast, so I came out of college very green, in the sense that, you know, I had a great time at college, felt like I got a really good education, everything too, and felt ready to attack shit. But I'd never thought, I don't know if the term is like, I've never thought for myself, but that's how I'm going to say it right now, in the sense that I always thought it was like, all right, you come out of college, go get a respectable job in a respectable industry, you'll figure it out. So while I was in college, I met the dad of one of my friends, shout out Larry, and we got tight, and he was really successful. He was on Wall Street, which can mean a million different things when people say that. So his part of Wall Street was he worked in the private bank of Merrill Lynch at Bank of America, which means he managed ultra high net worth individuals, probably had like an average net worth of like 85 million or so.
Guys.
And yes, and then on everything that they did, from their investments to like planning out their whole life, the whole bit, like very, very specialized. Yeah. And then also like public companies and shit they may do. It could be something as simple as like a 401k, which is really just an excuse to talk to people.
This is more like hands-on.
Yeah. But he could do with stuff like 10b5-1 plans for, you know, how insiders sell stock and things like that. So there was a lot going on there, and he and I got really tight. I'm tight with him to this day. He's the fucking man. Yep. And he gave me a job there. And so the way that part of Wall Street works, it's different in all different parts of Wall Street, but the way that part works is you come out of college, you grind like a dog for 4 or 5 years. You don't make any money, right? And then if you do a good job, you get the offer, and now you get really brought into the inner sanctum. Now, I think he brought me into the inner sanctum technically from day one. Probably. But just I was in a program where the company he had full oversight of me, and I didn't really do anything with the company, but the company was the one paying me, as opposed to him and his individual group within there. It's a little convoluted.
I'm here with you.
How to put it. But yeah, so I got to that point, and late summer 2019, he gave me the offer, which for the first time in my life, I was going to have what to me would have been a fuck ton of money. Yeah. And I'd worked hard for it, but I knew as we were building up to it, A, that it was coming, and B, that I was probably not going to be able to take it, just because I loved working with him, and I loved our team. We had an amazing team. Like he's had his group, the 3 girls that have been with him, just like running the day to day. They've been there. 2 of them over 30 years. Another one is at like 20. Okay. So like,
solid team.
Yeah, great team. And I love them. I just didn't. I mean, picture me wearing a suit as a fucking banker.
I can't. That's why I'm asking you. What did you do?
It's almost like.
I actually can though.
You can?
You just carry yourself so professional and well. I feel like you can handle yourself in any situation. Okay.
I appreciate that. Can we play that for my mom?
No, play that for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like I cosplayed.
Being happy, if you would be happy, that's a whole different thing. Most like, I don't think you would. I see you better doing what you're doing now.
I see what you're saying.
Doing that, but
yeah, it was weird because it's almost like you come out of college every day. I dressed like this and wore a backwards hat in college, and then one day, we're wearing a suit from Joseph A. Bank. It's very strange looking back on it, and I just knew. I think I had a line when I was talking about this with my dad about what I was going to do. I'm like, I'm going to be, because like if I said yes to Larry on that, technically, I could have like collected a big check for a year or 2 and then checked the fuck out or whatever. But that would be the most disloyal bitch ass thing you could possibly do. Because he already had me in the inner sanctum, but based on the offer he gave me, which I'm going to keep a lot of that between us, like I would have essentially been touching everything that he had worked his whole life for in some way, which is like an incredible responsibility. And so to like, if I say yes to that, in my mind, I'm there for minimum 5 years. And I'd said to my dad, I'm like, I'm going to be sitting in my Tesla 5 years from now crying about my life decisions and have no one but myself to blame.
Thinking, what should you have done or what?
That's right. Done? And so, I said no to him, which I think he knew me so well. Like he saw that coming, but it still
hurt him.
Of course. Yeah. But his whole thing was like, you got to be happy, which I appreciate the priority.
He actually cares about
He does. To this,
To
this day, like Larry's the fucking man and really, really, really important guy in the history of my life.
So then how do you go from that to
podcast
picking up a interface and a camera?
Yeah. So
he's like, yeah, no, there's a lot.
So I had, and part of the reason I think we both saw it coming is once I got out into the real world and was doing this, it's like one thing that college cannot be critiqued for is trying to teach you how the real world works. People want colleges to do that, and there's a lot of shit to critique colleges on these days, for sure. Yep. That's not one of them. They can't do that. Their job is to educate you, and then you have to, through the experience of life, figure shit out once you get out there. So when I got out there, the part of my job I loved on Wall Street was half of my job was to go out into the biggest city in the world and meet people and see who the fuck did what, why, who talked to who, why this industry worked with that industry, what they were doing here versus what they were doing there. And you start to, it's almost like that scene in The Matrix where all the fucking lights are coming at him and everything. And it's like, you're picking it all up. Yeah. And so I was good at that part, obviously. It makes sense for what I do now. Yeah. Essentially, I always just recorded podcasts with people without a mic. And so I started getting into some side hustles, like a couple years in, and they were totally different.
Sketchy. What kind of
they were like media work, marketing work, creative work. That was something I had never had a self-awareness with myself. I was a creative first.
Yeah, working for other people.
Yeah, but not even just that. It's like, you know, I was a writer by trade. I had written for the school paper since I was fucking at least 14, maybe before that too.
I don't know.
You know, I was someone who was always creating shit and doing shit and, you know, never could stay still. Like always had to be making something new. There's a lot of other examples, but like I got in touch with that. And so my buddies Mitch and Mike, they're brothers. They lived in Jersey City and they started to pull me into their world. And they came at it from like the creative engineering world. And I mean that like quite literally. Yeah. Like they were usually, and it's like you either have your marketing guy or your engineering guy. It's very rare you get people that actually bridge both. And Mitch and Mike in their jobs quite literally bridge both and constantly had side hustles. And so, you know, I started like living at their place half the time and we, you know, worked on some LLCs, started spinning up some ideas. And then my buddy Chaz Servino, who I'm extremely tight with, pulled me in to advise him. He had built a huge, I mean, it was a lot of different things, but among other things, it was like a digital marketing agency. They had like 55 employees. He built it straight out of college. He was like 5-6 years older than me. Okay. And so he pulled me in to start advising him on his personal brand and building the creative side, which was cool because I got to
learn, see how he's doing.
Exactly.
See how to do it.
Exactly.
If you want to.
See how he figured shit out. Yeah. You know, he was 22 coming out of college, just built this company. Yeah. It's amazing stuff. And so, you know, and then Mitch and Mike were working with him already as well. So I had all these other things going. And then we had an idea in early 2019, one of Chaz's clients, like at the time he was business partners with Kevin Garnett and was Ray Lewis's manager. Okay. And then, you know, he'd have industry like connection. Yeah, and then he'd have like a fucking random ass public company that he was doing all the marketing for. Like he was all over the place. But he had a client, the Maxwell Awards for football. You probably heard of them before. They've been around a long time. And you know, they do them somewhere else now, but they would do their annual awards in Atlantic City, which is like kind of funny, like these days. Like it's such a out there place to do like an award season thing. But it was going to be March 2019, and Ray Lewis was getting the Lifetime Achievement Award. Long story short, they ended up throwing me on camera to do a bunch of stuff.
That's how you start.
That's kind of how it started, and like it was fun. We brought in I brought in some clients from out of town.
And you just stood there interviewing them? Like
no, we were sitting down. Like it was supposed to be Chaz was going to do all of them, and I was going to like ride shotgun. So that's what happened the first night. Yeah. And then the second day, it was a Friday. They had the press conference in the morning at like 10:30 a.m. And so we go get a workout in, come back, and we're like, all right. Mitch was like, yo, I'm headed down there right now. I'm going to get the back of the press room. And we're gonna get all the branding up and everything, and we'll have seated like really smart, premium shit. That's why I loved hanging around Mitch and stuff, because like he would just figure this shit out. Yeah. And so I go down to the press room. They're about to start. Mitch has it on lock, and Mitch sat down and started doing some interviews, like individual with some of the different people from the NFL and NCAA who were there. I'm like, oh, this is fucking great. So I go meet Chaz at the escalators coming down with Ray. And we're walking in. I'm like, all right, yeah, we're gonna. Mitch is already like teeing this up, and Chaz is like, yeah, change the plans. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes,
you're the guy.
Ray wants to do content up in his room, so I already talked to our other guys. They're gonna set something up there. I'm gonna host that. You're gonna host everyone downstairs. And he just like tapped me on the back. I'm like,
Good luck.
What? No, we're not. No, we're not doing that. And he's like, you'll be fine. And that's what happened. And I remember
Was that your first podcast?
I mean, it wasn't, it was just like a sit down, technically, like just do it live.
Yeah.
But I did 3 of them in like an hour and a half. The first one was with Vince Papale, who was the subject of Invincible, the movie.
Okay.
So as an Eagles fan, I love that.
Yeah.
And at the end, like we talked for 20, 25 minutes and I was just freestyling it. Like, what the fuck? Like, all right, whatever. And at the end, I gave him my business card.
Oh, that's great.
my Merrill business card.
Great.
And he like looked at it and he like looks at it, looks up at me, looks down at this. He goes, you work at Merrill? I said, well, among other things. And he goes, you should do this. You're good at this.
Wow.
Do this.
Wow.
I was like, oh, thanks. So he leaves, and then I turned to Mitch, and I'm like, all right, Mitch, are we doing another one? He's like, yeah, you're going to be talking to Jeff Munkin. And I go, who the fuck is Jeff Munkin? And the guy next to me goes, hi, I'm Coach Jeff Munkin. I'm like, God damn it! Fuck! I'm like,
oh,
hi,
like
Jeff.
A movie. That's great.
And I'm like, who is this guy? He's like, he's the coach of Army.
Okay.
Like the football team.
Wow.
And he won Coach of the Year.
This guy's famous. This guy is so well known in the industry, and you're just like, what the hell is this guy?
And literally, like, did we bring Jim DiOrio to this? Yeah, we did. Jim DiOrio came down to this.
He's the FBI.
Yes. We did bring Jim down to this, right? Yes, we did. And so Jim is an Army. He graduated from West Point.
Okay.
So, like, you know, he would have been having a heart attack seeing that.
Yeah.
But the guy sits down, they mic him up, and I'm like, when are we going? And Mitch is like, right now. And I'm like, I don't know who this man is. So I like pull up his Wikipedia. I'm like, Jeff Munkin, Army coach from the Midwest. All right, fuck it, let's do it. And we sat down and talked for like a half hour, and it was good.
Wow.
And I was like, my dad was standing off set.
Wait, he's the guy who told you after to do.
No, Vince Papale is the one who told me that.
Okay,
and then
guy.
right after
Right
Vince
after
leaves, I'm like, so who we talking to?
Okay.
And it was cool because, like, you know, there were a lot of people like gathered
yeah.
around. We had the lights on there. My dad was standing there, and he was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
You know, and then the third one we did with Coach Josh Ergel and his wife Kristen. He's a assistant coach in college football, and they were winning like I forget what the award's called, but like the Inspiration Award. Okay. Because one of their daughters was born with a crazy rare condition, and you know they'd just been through hell, like taking care of her, and also like, you know, finding a way to continue his career while doing that. It's just a beautiful story. So that one was it was hard in the sense you got to hear about this, but so easy just to you know, get them talking about this and everything. And they were like the coolest people. And at the end, like, we were just kind of walking around, and you know, Mitch was always like such a hype man for me. And it was like,
did you notice that in the moment? It seems like everybody else around you was noticing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or did it not take you?
Because you still assume you suck.
Of course. Right. Still to this day.
Right. But, you know, Mitch was just like, good job, Jules. Okay. Like, very, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, as a longtime friend, it was one of those things where.
An unspoken.
Yeah, exactly.
Acceptance.
And then my dad was like, you're fucking good. Like, shit. You know? And so I remember leaving, like, when we were walking away from that, we had a couple hours to kill. And the thoughts were, you know, because this was March 2019. The offer was going to come in late summer. I knew it was coming. But I'm like,
I like this.
I like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I like the editing we get to do, and because we'd start editing videos and stuff at that time. Yeah. And so the thought was there, and then we did another one of those events in June 2019 in New York. It was the Next Gen Summit.
Hello there. I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely, beautiful podcast, but a quick reminder to like, follow, and subscribe. You can get the full video versions on YouTube and Spotify. You can get the social media on X, TikTok, Instagram. If you like what we're doing, share this with a friend. If not, who cares about you? Now let's get back into the show.
So we just set up a table, and the founders of this conference, who were two young guys, they were like 23, 24, fresh out of college, and they were running this like event circuit. You know, they're like, yeah, just film content. It's good branding for what we do.
You're helping them.
Yeah. So me, Mitch, and Mike did the 3 of us did 30 some interviews or something over those 2 days. And it was a Saturday, Sunday, and we wrapped Sunday at 6 o'clock, drove back over to Jersey City. We were starving, hadn't eaten all day. Mm-hmm. So we dropped off a couple things. Mitch took all the hard drives and all the cameras and stuff and put it in his bag because he was going to go back. We're all from South Jersey. Okay. So he was going to go back to South Jersey to his parents for the week to work remote and start editing. So we put it in the car. I'd had my cousin Sydney come up the second day to help with production. And so the 4 of us drive over to get dinner in Jersey City, stop in some restaurant, eat for an hour. We come back and the car had been robbed of everything.
No way.
And it turned into this whole, it doesn't matter, it's a long story, but it turned into this whole odyssey where Mitch and me were running around Jersey City in the wee hours of the night for 4 days trying to find stuff, because it wasn't just everything we did that weekend. Mitch lost all of his life's work. He had all of his hard drives in there. Wow. It was fucking crazy. So long story short, we didn't end up recovering all the stuff, but that experience and some other experiences built on top of each other, and it was definitely all percolating. And so when I said no to Larry, he right away was like, okay, well, that sucks, but you're doing a great job on the shit I have you do. I would imagine you're going to need to figure out doing an industry shift here. You want to do something totally different? I said, yes. He's like, well, don't say anything to the company. Just stay here while you do that so you can pay your bills.
This guy is a solid dude.
Yeah, solid dude to the core.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever I can do to help, I'll help. I'm like, great. So I started hitting the job trail hard, fall 2019. And I knew I'd get my ass kicked out there because it's I'm trying to do something totally different. I'm coming from the bank and now I'm trying to do creative work in New York City. Yeah. So I was so self-aware. I was going for $38,000 a year jobs in New York. Didn't care. I'm like, I'll prove myself. That's fine. And I couldn't even get an interview on a lot of those places. Wow. It was crazy. And so it really.
I'm wondering why. You have a resume with credentials.
I could tell you why. Because they didn't want to figure out how a 25-year-old from banking, whose resume looks great, was going to fit into a creative job when they have a bunch of kids who are getting a basic-ass marketing degree that are just coming out at 22, and they're like, well, I know that person could do social media management. Yeah. And I had side LLCs, but that's not enough for a resume. So I understood why that was. It was even more humbling than I already thought it was going to be, though. And Chaz was helping me out because he has crazy connections, and that was the only way I got through the door anywhere. Okay. It was literally Chaz calling someone up and taking care of business on things. And he also made a really difficult decision right at the same time I did to leave his company that he had started. Wow. There was a whole, I don't need to get into that, but there was a whole thing there. So that was the 2 of us were just totally switching up at the time. So
you guys are literally both on the edge of your seat.
Yes.
About to step into or step back. Yeah.
Yes. He had a lot more to lose, though. Mm-hmm. He had a wife. Sure. He had a business that he had built into a business worth $20 million that he was just going to leave behind. He had a lot to lose. I didn't have anything to lose. I was worth nothing. Yeah. And so my buddy Ty, in January 2020, he had Ty's a killer in real estate, and he's always got side hustles on his stuff, meaning he was a college lacrosse player, great player. So he's always had a teaching company where he teaches middle schoolers and high schoolers and trains them, really passionate about that stuff and giving back. So he said, yo, we're running a big camp Sunday, January 26th. And it's going to be in this big industrial warehouse that has some lacrosse fields in it in South Jersey. I want you to come because at the end, we're going to have the lights and studio set up, and I'd love you to interview me for content for the company. And I was like, all right, bet, say less. So one of my good friends was getting married the night before, and I was in the wedding. So we go do that, and, we're up till 6 a.m. having a good time, if you know what I mean. And so it was by South Jersey. So I went back to my parents' house early Sunday afternoon, I'm like, all right, I gotta get a workout in to like clear my head a little bit, try to get this out of my system. And I'm working out, and it was funny because sometimes in the gym, I'll go through these little phases for 3-4 weeks where instead of listening to music, I'll listen to like some of the motivational speakers with the music in the background.
Okay.
Right. So like Conor McGregor yelling at you, or Ray Lewis,
Typical
or
Goggins.
yeah, Eric, the hip hop preacher. Goggins I can't listen to because I just start laughing.
Yeah.
So-
What's the other guy? Janko?
Who?
Janko Wilkins?
Jocko Willink. Yeah. He'll be in there sometimes.
What did I say? Janko?
Janko. Close enough. So you gotta work hard.
Yes.
Grit doesn't matter. You find what you're made of on the battlefield.
Exactly.
It's like,
who's
gonna
move the boats?
It's like,
David.
all right, pal, I got you. So I'm listening to this 11.5-minute cut from a sit down that Kobe Bryant had done with Patrick Bet-David in August 2019. And I will say that interview that Patrick did with him was on a stage at some event.
I've seen this interview, just so you know.
All right, so you know. That was the best interview Kobe Bryant ever did, in my opinion. As far as getting into the mind of the Mamba, unknowingly leaving a last testament.
That as well.
Holy shit. So someone put together this 11.5-minute like montage with the music and stuff in the background. So that week I'd found that. And I was listening to that in the gym like each day. So I'm literally listening to it in the gym working out, finishing the workout, and I'm about to go to Ty's camp.
Yeah.
And the text comes in that from a buddy, Kobe Bryant just died. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, it was such a strange thing,
insane.
right?
Yeah.
I grew up a huge sports fan, huge basketball fan.
Yeah.
And, you know, Kobe was a Philly guy, and even though he played for the Lakers and stuff, like,
Sure, he grew up from
there was an affinity with him, and that was fucking Kobe. Like, Kobe doesn't die. Like, he's Kobe fucking Bryant. And so I'm driving to Ty's thing, and it just was weird. And we get to the camp, and it was just weird. So you're like, everyone's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then his daughter, we're finding out his daughter died too. It's just like this horrible thing.
Of course.
And so I'm like killing time for like 4 or 5 hours just stewing on this while all these kids are running around on the lacrosse field waiting to do the thing with Ty. And Ty had done like one like kind of stupid, it doesn't matter what it was, but he done one kind of stupid thing when he was in college that, you know, set him back a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said to me about wanting to do this content, he's like, yo, nothing off limits. I want to talk about any of that stuff. Like, it's a great example for kids to learn from, you know, the really great things I did, and then even some of the mistakes I made.
It's so true.
And all that, which
That's how you be authentic.
I was like, all right, you know, we're friends. Like, you're cool with that? And he's like, he's like, yeah. So it's like 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
They turn off all the lights. Most of the kids leave. All the staff's still there, and some other people are lingering. They turn off all the lights, and they put on the studio lights, and the two of us sit down, and we just go for a half hour. And his other partner at the time, Andrew Stryline, also came on, and I did one with him as well.
Cool.
And so I wasn't thinking about any of this. I was just fucking doing it. And at the end, like all the industrial lights go on, and people like start clapping.
Wow.
And there was like 30, 35 people in there. And a bunch of people were coming up to me going, bro, do you have a podcast? You need a fucking podcast. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with a podcast? You know, like people had said this before, but it was always one of those like, yeah, I'll do a podcast. And so I get in my car to drive back. I had an hour and a half drive back to North Jersey, 2-hour drive, whatever it was. And I drove back in silence because I was really at a crossroads in my life. I was getting my ass kicked on the job trail. I had a couple things that were starting to look okay now, but, you know, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And I just kept thinking about it because, you know, it was a weird day. Like Kobe Bryant died, and he was like a living hero and all that.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was a guy who just talked about locking in on the shit you're passionate about and going for it. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, if I did a podcast, I would have to do it right. Like it would need to be, I don't know, shit about fuck when it comes to a podcast studio or how that stuff works, but I would need to learn that. and the studio's got to be a vibe, and it's got to have all the right equipment and the right sound and the cameras and all that.
Of course.
And so with that, there wasn't like a thought, like, here's my plan. There was none of that. It was so like typical me, just like, whatever. I made it a hobby on the weekends. Like, I'd go to B&H Photo for hours at a time and just like talk with the staff about each thing, why this does that. I'd go home and Google everything and all that. And so I ordered a bunch of equipment with money I didn't have on like, I don't know, March 4th, 2020. Now, if you remember, COVID's hitting.
Perfect timing.
It's right when it's starting to get bad as far as like the markets. And I'm still working on Wall Street. Okay. So we are in the shit right now. And so I hit this order button, and then the COVID takes over. And I don't even remember I did it. So the first day of quarantine, Friday, March 13th, I get a notification that says, your podcast equipment has arrived downstairs at your apartment. And I was like, oh,
I didn't remember that.
So I lug all this shit upstairs to the 5th floor, and I sit it on my couch, and
One second. What did you order?
Mike's
the interface. I just want a basic.
Yeah.
I'm in a very new podcast, so I would like a.
Dude, I'll give you whatever you want. At the time, the first things that came in, the Shure SM7B mics, the Behringer mixer.
Okay.
The headphone amp, the headphones, the cloud lifters, the XLR cables, and the cameras.
Which cameras?
At the time, it was Canon Vixia HFG50s.
Wow. I mean, honestly, it sounds like a decent freaking setup.
It was a very good setup for like I said, I was going to do it right.
Yes,
exactly. I was going to do it right.
I forgot about that.
And, so I step back, and I don't know how long it was. Could have been 30 seconds, could have been 60 seconds, could have been 3 minutes. But I just sat back and looked at the couch, just like it couch, just like that.
Yeah. Looked
at this equipment, and I was like, Julian, you have done a lot of stupid shit in your life.
That's great.
Like a lot of stupid shit. And I'm like replaying all the stupid shit I've done in my life. I'm like, this might be the stupidest shit you've ever done. Every job opportunity you had just dried up overnight. It's gone.
It's sitting on your couch.
It's gone. Those job opportunities. No, the job opportunities are gone because the world's ending.
Yeah.
Like, no one's talking to you. Yeah, any of these interviews I had, they're like, yeah, sorry, things are changing. And, now the world's ending, and now pretty much any money I had is sitting on this couch in the form of a bunch of shit that I don't know how to use. And then there was like a pause. And I was just like, well, if not now, then when? I guess I got to go for it.
Yeah.
So there were 2 important calls that happened, unbeknownst to me. And it was within the next few days.
Okay.
Like by the 16th or 17th, both these calls had happened. One was from my dad, who, remember they were saying like 2 weeks to stop the curve or whatever?
Stop the curve. Oh,
with COVID.
Yes.
So we're thinking we're going to be back in the office in 2 weeks. My dad's like, do not re-sign your lease for April 1st, which was coming up.
Okay.
He's like, do not re-sign it.
Okay.
This is going to last a year.
Okay.
I was like, what? Malaka, they're saying fucking 2 weeks. And he's like, this is going to last a year.
He was on it. Yeah.
Just come back home and wait it out.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. So that was decision 1 that was very good for me. Second thing was my boss called up. Now, this is probably a few days after my dad, when people were starting to realize maybe it's not going to be 2 weeks. Maybe it'll be a month or 2.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, obviously we're not in the office right now. And actually, one thing that was great is at the very end of my career here, we did the best we ever did. Like, we had our clients set up
at the end of the banking career.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had our clients set up so beautifully that it was fucking crazy leading into COVID. And then maybe like 5-6 days into COVID, we're all working remote, but we're all like, what the fuck? We're all like looking around. We're like, oh, shit looks pretty good. Like all the accounts look good. Like, people hadn't lost too much money. We'd really protected on the downside well. Everyone was doing great. And then we had like pretty good plans in place to start investing in some distressed spots, because obviously we knew that stimulus stuff was coming. They were talking about that. And so I don't want to say we had it on autopilot that soon, but you could see we weren't too far from actually being like in a really good spot, which was cool. So, maybe a week in or whatever, things were calming down, and my boss called me up and he goes, hey, I take it all your job opportunities dried up? And I was like, yes. I wasn't telling him about the podcast idea. I'm working on that like around the clock. But he's like, yeah. So we look to be in a pretty good spot. You don't really have to do a lot for me, but he's like, why don't you just stay on? Because I had told him 2 weeks before COVID, I said, I'm going to leave March 31st. He's like, all right. Because I knew something was going to crack on the jobs. I said, if I got to go home, because remember my lease is coming up April 1st. I'm like, I just won't re-sign that. If I got to go home for a month while I'm figuring it out, that's fine. Yeah. But he's like, why don't you stay on and collect the check from the company and just do some of the little stuff I need you to do here and there until we go back to the office?
You were like, okay.
I was like,
thank you.
I'm interested. So we're thinking that's going to be like May.
Yeah.
Turns out they didn't go to the office for a fucking year and a half.
Yeah, it was
okay?
2 years. Yeah.
So I don't re-sign my lease April 1st, and I go back to my parents' house. So for the first time in my adult life, since like I was in college at one point, I don't have rent. Now I don't make a lot of money at Merrill, but now for the first time, like that's a nice. Yeah. It's a nut because I don't spend on anything. Of course. So the only things I was spending on were things that were related to like having to do the podcast. Like, I got to buy membership to this or whatever, So what turned out happening is while I'm building the show from April until September 15th, I was able to collect checks from Merrill without having to then do a rent payment, which I didn't get a lot of money, but it built me just, as it would turn out, just enough runway to be able to float me while this thing was making no money and I was just building. Yeah. And so I get back to my parents' house April 1st and I bring all my shit in the house and my dad sees the podcast equipment and he's like, what the fuck is that? Wow. And I'm like,
You remember you told me I did a good job?
I'm like, yeah.
It's happening.
And so he's like, well, if not now, now's the time to go for it. So and the back room there, he let me turn it into a makeshift studio, which considering that it wasn't a room that was built to like be a studio, I'm very proud of that to this day. Like when I made that was every episode prior to episode 161 was in there. Jeez. And,
you're on episode like 280,
290 something now.
Yeah.
But, the first, as it would turn out, the first 3.5 years I was there. And so I built.
What were some memorable guests that went to your parents' house?
Michio Kaku, Sean Ryan, Paul Rosalie,
okay,
Andy Bustamante, Matt Cox,
everyone,
James Fox.
Was there?
Yeah, all these guys, they saw it when I was doing that, which was always funny because I usually like wouldn't tell people it was at my parents' house, and then we'd like pull up and be like, "Welcome." And they'd be like, wow, nice house. I'm like, it's not mine. But it was strange because my dad was able to work remote pretty much on anything because he's a lawyer. So unless he was like on trial or something, the way it worked, he could be wherever. So at the same time, all four of my grandparents, they were all alive at the time, they all lived down the Jersey Shore. And they all had like random health problems just pop up when COVID happened. COVID was just so bad for old people. Yeah. Like unrelated to COVID, they had other health problems because like, let's lock a bunch of old people inside all day. Nothing bad will happen. And so my mom started like taking care of all of them. So the two of them were basically living in my grandparents' house down the shore. Okay. For a lot of these years I was there. And I was just like alone at the house most of the time. And I just started building, and obviously like it turned out how it turned out and all that, but that was what got me there. And when I committed to it, I didn't even have time to like outside of that moment staring at the couch on March 13th, 2020, like when I got back to my parents, I just started building the studio. Yeah. I didn't, as an OCD chronic overthinker, I didn't have time to overthink other than on the details of everything I was building. But the actual like, man, Julian, I wonder how the fuck this is going to work.
There's no time.
There was never a time for me to do that. And thank fucking God, because it would have never happened. I would have been like, this is so stupid. Like we can't do this. And I just started building, and I knew I could get better and better at my craft. Like the first 86 episodes, one of the things I get all the time from people is like, okay, I'm starting a podcast. how do you recommend I should go about getting big guests to come here? And I'm like, you don't.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, guys, for the first 86 episodes, the requirements to be on my podcast were, are you a breathing human being? And does your mouth move and make noises sometimes? Yeah. I mean, the bar was low.
No, that's where my bar was.
Okay? Like, you got to be realistic with that, because my thought was, okay, at the beginning, I just need to set a couple precedents.
Yeah.
We're in person. I never did a Zoom, never will. That was like a will never happen.
I feel the
won't
same
do
way. I don't feel like that's a podcast.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, I know other people can do it effectively. I don't know. My ADD takes over. Yeah. Nothing good's happening.
I don't feel like it's really tangible.
You can't feel the other person's vibe and energy. Period. End of story. I don't care what people tell you. So, like, that's number one. Number two, we're gonna do long forms. So I need to set the precedent. You're getting, 3 hours from me, these episodes, and I'm like, so I will find a way to market what we do, and then one of my great skills is I was a good relationship builder. From my previous career, and that's a natural talent I had before that career as well. It's probably why I was good at it. But I'm like, we'll just take opportunities as they arise. So, like, I was able to get a really legit person like my buddy Jim DiOrio, who I was friends with before I ever did this, to come in for episode 48. And people were like, how the fuck did you get a guy like this? I'm like, because he's like basically Uncle Jim. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I'd get like Luisa, who was one of my old boxing trainers, who was one of the first cocaine cowboys in Miami, and was Muhammad Ali's sparring partner and a heavyweight contender. Like, crazy story for episode 70. And then Nick Castellucci was introduced to me by a few other people who had been on my podcast, and he was a part of that underground FIFA scandal, when he was in high school, which was a crazy fucking story. Yeah, I would get some legit stories like this. People no one had heard of publicly, but who had resumes that you're like, oh, I'll click that one. That sounds interesting. Yeah. But a lot of them were just my boys. And like, a lot of people did a great job, by the way, coming in there, and we just flow. And I'd have to talk a lot more than I do now. Like, the first 86 episodes, some episodes I'd have to talk fucking 60% of the time. Yeah. Other episodes I could do 20. Yeah. It really depended on who the guest was and whether they were more story-based or not. But what really made it happen was everyone has to find a way to set themselves apart. There has to be one thing that you do that is just different. And I don't think there's any other way to put it. I got really lucky with my timing, because when I launched the podcast September 15th, 2020, publicly. Yeah. And I was just, for the first 4 or 5 months, I was just getting used to the cadence of editing, and I wanted things perfect, man. Shit that should never matter. Like,
your editing skills are beyond. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Not only the editing skills, the format, if that makes sense. You literally have like the perfect YouTube hook in the beginning, and then a subscribe, and then the intro. The format, like that format is very important for retention and for your audience.
Yeah, we're always experimenting with that. I appreciate it. I mean,
it doesn't go unnoticed.
Well,
I actually forgot to do something in the intro.
Yeah. What's that?
Let's see.
Oh, the Sonic brand I do?
Yes.
I actually made that.
I know you did.
That was a fun, creative thing I did. I made that 2 weeks before we went live.
For people that don't know, that's a sound effect that he does in every episode.
It's like, did you?
But I swear those little things is what I'm going back to with the production quality.
Yeah.
That makes your editing different from everyone else's.
Thanks, man. Shout out Gary V on that one. I listened to that dude talk about Sonic brand is like the most important thing you have. Sonic brand, bro, I can't even get this across. If you're not investing in Sonic, what are you doing? That's why I put so much money into audio. Audio is the next frontier. And he would have that, what was that sound he used to do on videos where it'd be like, or whatever, like,
I think I know what
you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was like a second long, and I'm like, I need my own of that. Yeah. And so I mixed together these things, and I remember when I landed on it, because I was basically like producing a 1 second song, I was like, ooh, that shit's fire. Like, yes. And then I was like, all right. I mixed like 3 different sound. There was like, remember that shitty song I had on for the hook,
maybe
at the beginning, where then it'd be like me talking over it or whatever. Because I didn't understand anything about royalty free or anything like that at the beginning. So I'm like, oh, you can't do anything because you'll get kicked offline, which is that's a good way.
That is a good way to look at it.
So I'm like, well, every podcast, I'm an audio like Nazi. So
is it an audio file? I think that's an actual term.
Well, that's a term too, but I'm saying like when it comes to music, I've never heard a podcast with intro music that I like because you always have to use royalty free or something. It's not the fucking Rolling Stones. I want the Rolling Stones. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm like, well, it's going to be shitty. So let's just do something way different. I pick like this horrible like techno beat, but I'm like, well, it's different. And then I put like vocals over it. So I'm like, it's mine. It was so fucking bad. I think every episode prior to episode 113 has it. And it's just like cringe. But, you know, when I bought the rights to use that song, they gave me in a file, because there's a lot going on in that beat. There's way too much going on. But they gave me every instrument and sound that went into it in an individual file.
The stems.
Yeah. And so I ended up remixing like 4 of those things.
That's cool. Then this gave you the actual master. And
into that sonic brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, like things like that. But what I was saying is that the first 5 months, I was just getting used to the cadence of editing the actual product and the branding and having all that right and recording one every week and getting it out. And in the meantime, I was studying TikTok. Now, I had found TikTok.
It's crazy to say studying TikTok, but it's a fact.
No, that's what I was
this
doing.
Is how you study TikTok.
Yeah. And the thing that struck me was TikTok. I had found TikTok like early 2019.
Wow.
And at the time, it's just all 15-year-old kids on there.
That's early.
And me, which sounds very creepy to say. Yeah. But all these kids would just make dancing videos. That was literally the whole app.
Yeah.
And I remember calling up everyone I know who had an even modicum of talent in something and saying, stop what you're doing and get on TikTok, quit everything else and get on there right now. Yeah. And nobody listened to me. Yeah. I was making these calls by summer 2019. And
did you?
Well, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. But with the podcast, again, so fast forward to when I'm starting, I'm building the product itself, but I'm studying the feed and I'm seeing 2 things. Yeah. Number 1, almost no podcasts are doing shorts or TikToks. Number 2, the ones who weren't doing anything special. In fact, guys would take, at the time Instagram was 1080 by 1350. Okay. They would take a 1080 by 1350 video with a couple shitty captions on it, nothing else, that they stuck on Instagram and just toss it on TikTok, where it's in a feed where every other video is 1080 by 1920, meaning like the full screen, and you're competing with like Zach fucking King, who's doing CGI magic tricks. You're not competing with other podcasts. You're competing with geniuses. Yeah. So I'm like, this is like a slap in the face to the algorithm. Yeah. And so I was a creative guy and I'm a self-taught editor. But I was like, all right, I'm going to get creative with these. So I started with I'm a music head, so I would not use royalty free. I started with just engineering music into clips from the podcast. And then I got the science down to how to edit the clips, because my big thing was I never wanted to make it look like it had a cut. I never wanted someone to be talking and their head's here and the next word their head's here, because then it got cut. I wanted to find a way to always make it seem like there were no breaths, but it sounds natural. Yeah. Sounds like no edits happen.
Which is the best way to do it.
Yes. Honestly. And then I knew.
I'm just laughing because it sounds like
it sounds psycho.
It sounds like it's impossible to do almost, but it's the best way to do it, and that's how you should set the standard for it.
But it would take hours to do it. And then I would.
Hello there. I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely, beautiful podcast, but a quick reminder to like, follow, and subscribe. You can get the full video versions on YouTube and Spotify. You can get the social media on X, TikTok, Instagram. If you like what we're doing, share this with a friend. If not, who cares about you? Now let's get back into the show.
I made this clip, and I remember I had it in my head because that episode I did with him, number 45, was really cool because Ashtin was. Do you remember there was a video on YouTube that went crazy viral? This is like 15 years ago, called like "White Boy Destroys Other Dude in Freestyle" or something like that. and it was just this guy laying waste to another individual in a school parking lot, and that was Ashtin, and it went crazy.
Oh, wow.
And he's musically so talented. He can do. That kid can. You want to talk about genre bending? He can go everything from like hard rap to fucking country.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so fucking talented, and he's had a lot of Ashtin Larold, and so he's had a lot of mental battles in his life with just things that have happened to him and stuff, and so he really opened up about that in number 45. And that was probably, I didn't think about this at all at the time. Actually, I've never really thought about this. That was probably one of the first ones where I looking back on it, where it's like you could see how I could get people for whatever reason going there. And so really going below the surface. And so he had this story where he explained, he was talking about, some of the suicide attempts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And one thing I never do when I'm doing a podcast, even when I was the editor of clips, is I never, ever think to myself, hook, clip, ever, when I'm in there. I know later, though. I know I can remember when he said this thing, that's a hook, right? And I remember he said, he was explaining, he's like, I had so much problem with my whatever, and he's like, and then there was a pause and a change in tone immediately. He's like, I had so much problem with whatever. It's like, I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to be alive, which is just an insane line. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he went through this incredible analogy of like, explaining that he realized he couldn't get rid of his anxiety and his depression and all these things. They're in the car with him, but he's driving. And so I'd had this playing in the back of my head. I recorded that episode, put it out in April with him, but I would always make content later on stuff. And so I was making a lot of clips that were doing pretty well, and I was just making my full-time job was just making clips and ideating things. So I was down the shore at my grandparents' house that Sunday, and I was like, that morning, I'm like, I gotta leave. I gotta go home to my studio. Like, I had this in my head. I'm gonna make this clip. And so I go home, I start editing at like 2:00, and I'm just like locked in. I get it edited down to the perfect spot where it's flipping back and forth between he and I. Now at the time, I hadn't yet figured out like the 2-frame thing, 2-frame lead time on time. This is where it gets a little sick.
For the people that don't.
This stuff doesn't happen on any of my videos now because I don't edit any of them, and no one has the time to do this stuff. This is not worth your time. But like, if I had a text changing, I don't want that on the caption. I don't want it changing. I don't want the camera changing in the middle of the same text being on the screen. So if the text on the screen says, these are the reasons why, and the camera's on me when it starts, but when it says, these are and it switches to him, but the same things, it looks clunky. So I would want things to appear at the same time. And so I also had it in my head that I think I had that thought. I think I had already gotten to that point at this point. But the other thing was, once I had the body of it edited to the time that it was going to be, I was like, now what music do I want to do? This is a heavy clip, so you want something emotional. I remember I went and grabbed Yellow by Coldplay for a second. I'm like, nah, that's too much. Yeah. And then I went and grabbed, there was another piano one I had, and I'm like, that's pretty good. But like, like, I've made so many clips, and at the time I'd already made so many clips, and I'm such a pattern maker with music and how people talk and what the volume mastering of that looks like, and also what it does to the words.
Yeah. You're meticulous.
Like, very meticulous.
That's the word that I would use.
Like, Yeah. So whenever I would do it, and maybe I would have been going through music and trying to line it up on the beat, so I want it dropping on this note right here when it starts, because that's the hook, and I want it ending on this crescendo right here. So meaning you got to find a song that fits that. Maybe I'd be 2.5 hours in, 3 hours in, just looking for just music for this and trying to line it up, and then you'd get one and you're like, oh, that's good. And in your head, you're like,
listen to it.
You're like, I didn't say yes. If I didn't say yes, then I'm settling. it's not the right one. So this one wasn't that long of a process as far as finding the right one. I started with Yellow. I went to another song that had piano, and I remember like, because the clip's coming together fast, and I know this one's special because it's just so, and I was really treating it with a lot of care too because it's such a vulnerable clip. I really, really care about that when I do it. Like there's way more thought that goes into it, but I was really locked in on this edit, and I was like, no, it's missing something. And then I went and grabbed the Runaway, and I did like first beat, boom. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to be alive. Boom, boom.
Oh, that's great.
And then it went all the way through the story,
hitting the
where you have, I didn't start it at there's 16 of the same key. I think that's an E. That starts it off like boom, 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 and that repeats 4 times.
Yeah.
And then it goes into a bar of boom. Well, there's 15, and the 16th key is the ba 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 ba. So it's essentially like 4. So it's 28 keys total, but it starts to drop on the 16th, and I got it to where I was able to time it right so that it dropped into the beat right when he finishes the point, and it cuts to me just like, wow, that. And it was just so perfect. And there's a lot of things wrong with that edit because I'm a way better editor now than I was then. But like at the time, it's still one of those I look back on, and I was like, that just hit so perfectly and beautifully. And I had more people reach out to me, which they shouldn't have been reaching out to me. They should have been reaching, and a lot of people reach out to him. He still gets people to reach out to him around the world. But I had more people reach out to me about that clip than I ever did on any clip I ever made. So that was when I had reached a peak level of like mastering music and getting the edit below 30 seconds and minimizing audio time and making it smooth. I'd mastered all that.
This is all from studying TikTok.
And iterating.
And applying.
Yeah, iterating myself. And like, shout out to my boy Johnny Drinks, John Rondi. Like, he was doing totally different types of edits, but he was someone I would really throw ideas off of, and he could see like I was good at this. Yeah. And he was like, dude, just keep going with these edits. They're going to get better. So right after that goes Nuclear. I started to figure out, because like, again, I'm going.
You hit the sauce, so now you're just.
Yeah, I'm going viral on TikTok. And podcasts still aren't making TikToks. Or they're making just the shitty ones I told you about.
I get you. Yeah.
And I said, all right, I got the music mastering down. Because I would sit down, I would export the same video like 25 to 35 times and listen to it on the speaker and on the headphones to see how the music mastered. Because one thing I wanted was I never wanted the music to beat the words, but I wanted it to be dangerously close. I wanted it to be like a song. Yeah. Because I wanted people to be like, oh, that's The Hills by The Weeknd, and start dancing.
On beat, literally.
Right. And then they'd like it at the end, and like, I almost need to see that again. Yeah. And so I would sit there and master that. And I have such tastes across all different lines of music. I'd use everything from the Rolling Stones to fucking Tupac to, Gwen Stefani, like you name it. Like if it was good, I used it. And I had to make sure I got a full, like an actual instrumental. If there was something that was recreated, I wasn't using it unless it was something incredible. Like some guy, I've used Lose Yourself before, but some guy did it on a guitar. Okay. That was incredible. I used that at one point. But like whenever someone like tries to rip the instrumental and separate it from the vocals, it's terrible because it changes. I won't use that. I have to get an original file. So a lot of songs you're able to get an original file from. And so I was at the point where I'm like, well, it's my game now. Like for podcasting, not for everything else, but for podcasting. I mean, there was no bar. The bar wasn't low. There was no bar. Yeah. It's like I can set whatever bar I want because, like the Jumpers Jump guys did a great job. They were crazy, way more viral than me, but they were niche. Yeah. Every video was, some sick, like awesome fucking conspiracy story and just very simple. Like they had their system. There were guys like that that had a great system, and that was awesome. I didn't need to worry about that. I had all different types of content. I've never had a niche before, right? So I'm like, my niche needs to be, it's just fucking good. And we're going to tell stories. I'd had a moment in the studio with this guy, John Borick. I think that was episode 57, where he was a sportscaster I watched growing up, very well known in Philly. And I asked him what the favorite part of his job was. And he said, telling stories. And he started explaining it. And we're recording in July 2021. So I'm starting to figure out TikTok at this time. Okay. And while he's explaining it, I'm like, holy shit. And I'm thinking in my head, and I think about every clip I had to that point that went viral. If they weren't literally telling a story, it was told in a narrative format. And then I thought about every clip that I thought was going to go viral because it was edited great, everything was right, and didn't go viral. And they were just some bullshit opinions or something. And I went, oh. And so I'm like, so I started doing all stories. And so right when I'm in that vibe, I'm like, okay, well, what's the next frontier here? Video. I'm going to start cutting in B-roll to this. And at the time, I was so worried about quality. I would only use 1080p stuff that I could download, right? And stuff that came in at a frame rate that wasn't skipping, meaning like if something downloads at 25 frames a second but it's supposed to be 24, I will not use it. And so I thought, and this is what, summer 2021? So this thought lasted until like the beginning of 2023, actually, or end of 2022, I should say. I thought I would always need to at least have half of the screen on us, meaning I still had to have the problem
like a split screen
of hiding the fact that we're skipping, right? But I said, I'm going to make fucking documentaries. I'm going to make music video documentaries. And that's what I did. I started cutting in video, and I had a system of like it. So a video is going to, when you change the screen, the human eye has a 2 to 3 frame delay. Okay. So you need to change it 2 to 3 frames before that next word caption happens. And it feels good. It feels satisfying.
I'm going to watch this back, and I'm going to improve my clips tremendously.
I haven't talked about this stuff in a while. I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of this now because the game's so different. Yeah. You have to understand, when I was at my peak making shorts, I'm getting ahead of myself. I could say that in a minute. But essentially, I do this in August 2021, and I told you about mentioning Mike Laxamana earlier. I'll never forget, I put out a clip about the GRU hacking team in August 2021 that was immediately going viral. Yeah. And Mike Laxamana texts me like 18 minutes after it goes up, sends me the link of the clip and says, hey, I can tell, especially knowing you, this takes a really fucking long time to do, but you need to keep doing this because this is really fucking good. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, I do have to do this every video, don't I? And so at the time, with where my editing skills were, that was a 29-second video. That one took probably about 8 hours to make. Wow. But then I started getting perfect with it. And I started editing the words on one-worders, or I started doing more B-roll. And then I had a higher bar for B-roll, meaning I wanted to make a story. I like, you know how you can have a dream? Of course. And in your dream, he's like, of course, I've dreamt before. But in your dream, you know, you might be doing something in your world with your mom, but like Michael Corleone shows up and he's in character. Yeah. It's not in The Godfather, but like he's Michael Corleone from The Godfather. And then he's talking to fucking Keanu Reeves from The Matrix, who's in the back seat. Yeah. Right? And it's this fever dream. Yeah. And it makes sense to you because you're in the dream. Yeah. But they're these fake people from fake stories that have now injected into a real, like spawned into a real world. I'm like, I'm going to make fever dreams. Okay. So I would cast characters. Like I would, based on the speaker, like Andy Bustamante, he's hard. He looks like Colin Kaepernick. I can't cast Colin Kaepernick as him. He's not a movie star, right? But I'm like, for him, I'm like, all right, I can't get someone that looks like him. But if I'm going to make this clip about him being recruited to CIA, it's going to be Brad Pitt playing him the whole way. Okay. And I may use Brad Pitt from different movies where he looks similar, and the setting of what's being described by Andy's words matches up to what he's saying.
I see.
And so I would cast characters, and what I would do is I would go onto
It's
YouTube.
like a story within the story.
Oh, yeah,
That's
it was crazy.
insane. That is.
I used to download sometimes 25 to 30 hours worth of footage. Just download. That doesn't mean go through fast with the mouse. Like sometimes I go through 80 hours worth, but actually download 25 hours worth for a 30-second clip. And I would go into, I can show you these files. I would go in. I don't recommend doing any of this. It worked at the time. It's a terrible idea. I'd go in and I'd cut the candidates. I would write out on a page each line, and I would know, okay, video, meaning it's just going to be him talking, B-roll, B-roll, B-roll. And I would want the B-roll to shift at every phrase.
Wow.
So he says, I went to Russia, B-roll. And when I was there, B-roll. I saw this thing, B-roll, that my wife hated, B-roll. Bum, 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 bum. Like,
A formula.
yeah, like that. And I mean, these things were like making songs almost. And I'd re-engineer music sometimes. Like I remember with the clip with Andy, when he was talking about doing missions from their base. This was like a 27.5-second clip in May 2022. But I used that song by Pop Smoke and Dua Lipa. What the fuck is it called? Oh, that's going to kill me.
I don't know. We can look it up.
Type in Pop Smoke and Dua Lipa.
Because that would bother me too.
Yeah, I can play it in my head right now. Ironically, with my photographic memory, I'm terrible with song names.
More?
Demeanor. Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
It is Demeanor, yeah.
Yeah.
More and
Yeah,
more.
he said, my demeanor. Oh, my demeanor.
Demeanor.
But the bass line of that song goes in like a 15 to 16 second increment before it changes up. Okay. And it resolves, it drops to like a bridge to the verse too early. I got a 27-second clip. That's not going to work. I need it to drop on the 27 seconds. So I re-engineered. I took 15 seconds from the first verse, like from the instrumental, and then found 12 seconds from Dua's verse, like 2 verses later, where I could make the beat land on the same bass, so it sounds like it was just a continuous re-engineered beat. Like audio producers of music would have a heart attack watching this, but it worked. And then I would have it resolved, like, so when he says at the end, so if you're in Russia, then you leave Russia, and it drops right at the end, almost like a door shutting right on time. So I would do stuff like that, and these edits would take so long because for each B-roll spot, I would pick out 10 candidates. And then I might have to take them and change their zoom because I always wanted the camera moving, or I'd color correct it. I mean, it just got more and more as time went on. So by the time I got to the clip in June 2022, the one that went the most viral, I did one that did like 50 million views on YouTube with Andy. That was a 33-second and 9-frame clip, and I took 35 hours to edit that. It was worth it.
Sheesh,
and there's actually one mistake in it. I fucked up at the last minute.
What's the mistake?
The video when it's dropping, when I do the second cut in, that was another thing. I figured out that you're not always going to have a perfect hook. Okay. So what I would do is I would make a hook. If someone had a perfect topic, but they didn't have the right volume of their voice or the right first sentence to say, I would make the sentence. So on that one, I recorded myself saying, if Putin actually did go crazy and decided to launch a nuke, it might not actually happen because, and it cuts to Andy saying, in Russia,
that's genius.
In Russia, they have a rule. And so it's perfect. And on this one, he had explained all this over like a 3-minute period, but there were these pauses and breaks, and it didn't really work on its own. So at first I made that hook. And then I wanted him to get to this crescendo part where he's basically answering the question of whether or not he thinks they would do it. Like, would Russia nuke? Of course. But I couldn't, like, in between him explaining the process and then explaining, like, that ending, there was, I couldn't edit context in the middle. So I said, I got to come in again. So it like he finishes. I remember I had Danny Jones in the middle of this. I'm editing this over like a 4-day period. And in the middle, Danny Jones flies in to do a podcast. And he's like watching me record these these hooks. He's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Just random spur.
Right, because I would also record each.
Russian,
I would record like that hook. If Putin did go crazy and actually did go crazy and decide to launch a nuke, I recorded that line like 100 times. And Danny at line 50 is like, bro, I think you got it. I'm like, no, it wasn't right. I missed it on this. So then I'm like, fuck. Like he left, and the next day I'm like, I need one in the middle. So it cuts from him saying, he goes, then Russia would say launch. And I come in and say, which means that if the CIA were able to then they might actually, and it cuts to Andy say, take what, and he's like finishing the sentence in tone. So it just, it's beautiful. And then I used The Hills by The Weeknd. And there's, at the beginning of that beat, it's like,
literally.
That's annoying. So I wanted it on the last one where it goes, boom, boom. So it launches on that. I would turn down the volume on that because the dBs are like maxing. And then that beat is perfect because it builds to a new level at each point prior to the drop. So it starts with bum 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 bum. So it's changing the notes, so it's creating suspense. Bum 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 bum. Now it goes into the same bar, but it adds a second layer. And so you're constantly building suspense. It's drama. It matches the mystery and like pensiveness of the clip, like the vibe of what your clip is and the music. That's a big bugaboo for me. Like that's got to be right. And I'm like, I need to edit this so it drops on the bum 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 before it goes to the drop. So it needs to end right there on that, which means it needs to be 33 seconds and 9 frames based on where I started it. So I ended on that, and that one I'm like, yeah, this one's gonna go.
Oh, that's
like when I put it up.
I keep just thinking in my head, meticulous is the word I'm looking for. Have you ever made music?
Yes.
Okay.
They would not be happy with
I can just tell with your bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
You're like very in tune. I feel like music teaches you rhythm, tempo, teamwork, discipline.
100%.
Music teaches you life skills.
100%.
Yeah. So
it's something I want to do in the future and be taught how to use the actual tools to do it. Because if music producers saw the tools I was using to make music for my cousin, they'd throw up, but it worked. But I probably had to spend, not even accounting for the extra time it would just take me to do a task because I'm not fast like those guys. Even after that, I still had to take 10 to 12 times the time it would take them because I'm using the wrong tools. Yeah. I would do it using the audio tools on Adobe Premiere.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah.
What tool? You're not using Pro Tools or Logic, you're using...
Yeah. I don't know how to use those.
Okay, those are audio-specific software, Pro Tools.
That's right. I know how to, like, I've never Googled this and I don't want to because I just hope it's true. But I had heard in the past that Frank Sinatra could not read a note of music. But he could record in front of a 300-person symphony. And while he's mid-recording, if the fucking third flutist in the back left corner was here instead of here, he'd be like, oh, no, you're here. I need you here. Yeah. Like he could feel it.
That is something that you can't.
And that's kind of what I have, but I can't. I haven't used any of the tools to be able to produce that. It's something I want to be able to do in the future. And it's probably like in another life, I would have been a musician.
Still this life,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, we could get there. It's definitely a thought, but because I love, like, I have to limit my time listening to music because I get very, very lost in it.
Yeah. If you had to choose podcast and music, which one would you listen to? On a run.
On a run?
On a walk. On a workout.
If someone listens to a podcast on a run, they're a psychopath. But thank you for doing it. Yeah, no, it's music for me on that. Podcast on a walk. Yeah, sure. Okay. Absolutely a podcast. But yeah, I love doing that stuff, and I would like that was the best part about editing these things. When I'm making a story, I got to work with the best actors in the world. I could have Brad Pitt play fucking Andy Bustamante.
Very true.
I could have Al Pacino play the guy who's arresting Louisa.
Yeah.
And then I got The Weeknd or Mick Jagger and Keith Richards on the underlying. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I admire the fact that you're doing all of those things behind. Just as a consumer, just so you see, we don't even notice those youth doing those 100 takes in the background. We just noticed this is good clip,
Right.
entertaining,
Yeah.
happy. But to you, it's like, dude, do you know how many times I have to record that one part? And I edit clips now for my podcast
Yeah.
for Skanks, and I'm like, how the hell do I don't use certain parts of the podcast because I'm like, no, it doesn't transition nice here. He cuts him off here. He says this word here. And I'm like, I wish there was a way for me to fix this all up.
Yeah.
And you're literally teaching me there's ways.
There's ways.
And it's hard.
It gets sick, but that's why I don't do it anymore. We had to,
Yeah.
I had to have people push me to give that away because it was all consuming.
I feel like it would take up way too much of your time.
Dude, and it was at a time, so there's two things that happened here. Because we were getting at this, I started this whole tangent explaining the only reason I exist today.
Yep.
Which is, I was explaining you got to find one thing to do differently. And I found at the time, this is not the case anymore, no one was doing podcast shorts. Like literally.
Yeah.
I'm going to win there. And I did because I was going viral on TikTok that whole time. YouTube was launching shorts. If you remember, in summer 2021, YouTube panicked, spring 2021, because for the first time, the daily average user time spent on app surpassed them. TikTok surpassed them.
I did not know.
So they were way caught off guard. They're like, fuck, shorts. And they're pushing shorts. So I was making shorts, and I would have shorts that went viral on TikTok and do nothing on YouTube, but they had 120% average watch time. And I'm like,
Jeez, what's going on?
Guys, come on. Let's go. So I was getting so frustrated. And I went crazy viral on TikTok after the Ashtin Larold video, and then I figured out the video format, like I was explaining, summer 2021.
Yep.
August was a great month, and then my podcast was growing. And it was right. Whenever you think things are going to get good, now I never do. So I just set myself. But that's when everything goes wrong.
It's usually
and so I'm like, oh, great, we're growing. And then I remember episode 66 of the podcast.
Yeah.
September, October, we went into this lull. And then I started having problems on TikTok, couldn't go viral, and YouTube wouldn't pick up my clips. I was posting the shorts over there, and they would do this crazy watch time and not go anywhere. And I remember it's funny. I was actually just talking with my buddy John Rondi, who I mentioned earlier, last night. He sent me some really nice texts about, where I was at and stuff. And he's like, remember when a young Julian was going to quit YouTube, was going to quit this whole fucking thing? And I was never going to quit, but he's not wrong. I got in the depths of despair in October 2021 because I had worked so hard to get to a point where I could take off, and now it felt like my plane had been bombed by Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
And I was just having problems. I remember TikTok even took down a clip just talking about Hitler. For the community guideline, which was scary. Because that never happened with me. All it was talking about Operation Paperclip. There was nothing risky in there, which was crazy. And so I was really freaked out.
That's the most mainstream thing to talk about Hitler for, too. Is this is a blatant we took Nazis from.
Right. Yeah, it was like a clip going against that.
It's literally an educate.
Yeah. Yes. And so I was just despair dumping on John, going back and forth. I'll never forget this, just going back and forth with him on text all day, one day, just fucking getting it out and complaining and what the fuck am I doing? And he was like, dude, just fucking, and mind you, he's very viral already at the time, very successful at the time with the Johnny Drinks page and everything that came with that on TikTok and YouTube, the whole bit. Dude, just keep making music. And I remember I said to him, John, I'm 260 videos into YouTube, LOL. And he responds, and maybe it'll take 261.
Wow.
And I still have that text because it wasn't video 261, but it was legit 264 or 265. Suddenly, the YouTube algorithm tested one of my shorts.
Wow.
And I watched it go like this.
Sheesh.
And it was a little Dirk short.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa. And then they started going to all the shorts I had posted that had that watch time that weren't getting viewed, and they started tossing them into the algorithm.
Hello there. I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely, beautiful podcast, but a quick reminder to follow, and subscribe. You can get the full video versions on YouTube and Spotify. You can get the social media on X, TikTok, Instagram. If you like what we're doing, share this with a friend. If not, who cares about you? Now let's get back into the show.
I started doing that
Yes, the clips
at
in the
113,
beginning.
right. And then, we took some steps up, and then I perfected the shorts edits in December 2022. I would make them in batches by that time, so I'd make 12 at a time and put them all out in 12 days. This is back when the algorithm would reward this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I noticed in December 2022 that the amount of time put in per clip and the quality of the output was not being met with the same views, because now YouTube wanted a little more volume. So at the beginning with shorts, they treated it like they treated all their channels at the time with regular videos, which is they don't care if you post once a week or once a year. If the video is good, they're going to push it. Yeah. So I could post shorts and not post for a month while I'm making shorts, and then put out a bunch and they'd all go viral. But I noticed that these are still good views, but I'd do videos that did 2 million views and 4 million views that I knew 6 months before that would have done 12 or 14. Now the trade-off's not good. Now if I'm spending 30 hours on that, 25 hours on that, that trade-off's not a good use of my time.
Very true.
And so I made my last shorts March and April 2023. The March ones got censored on drop. But those 3 were the best 3 shorts edits I ever did. And then, I perfected the intro edits. I did all those myself until sometime in the 160s episodes. And then we slowly handed things off because we started increasing volume of output. And as you build a show, all kinds of micro tasks suddenly become new tasks behind the scenes.
Yes.
Bullshit. Stuff that's not fun. And that's just how it is. Yeah. And so, having a guy like Alessi behind the scenes to tell me bro, this isn't paying off anymore. You need to do this, not that.
Yeah. In episodes in the 60s, I noticed that you put you had a green Spotify. Do I need to pull it up? I don't think I need to pull it up. What made you go from? I get the original ones. You didn't really have a format.
The original ones were when I didn't care about YouTube at all. It was just we're just posting on YouTube as well. Never thought about it. I'm like, here's just a screenshot of the studio, the name of the podcast, the number. And then I was like, okay, we need to care about YouTube now. I think I modeled. I was like, let me just start. I'll do 20 episodes just to get used to editing on Adobe Photoshop because I'd never done that before. Yeah. And I'll do something that's the basic model of color background, face, name a podcast. And that's all. There was no thought more than that. They weren't good, but they were better than what I first had. And then the thumbnail iterations have gone through about 8 generations at this point.
When you ask me what's a Julian Dorey thumbnail, I think black background, white lines, red and white font, white lines.
Picture of the person. Yeah.
Quotes.
Yeah. I think it's in a good spot.
It's in a beautiful. Some have crazy designs in the middle with quotes and guns pointing out the top. If you know which one I'm referencing.
It's that's on a different channel.
It's on the main.
That's on. If it's on my main, then it's an old one.
Yes,
it's an old one.
It is an old one.
Yeah. So I changed over at episode 237.
Okay.
To 239, I changed this new format, and at the time I went back and very quickly reformatted to
one of those, a mat,
yeah. No, listen. It worked. It worked at the time. These made me want to kill myself because they were so cringy. But I was focused. They weren't uniform, and I was focused on clicks, which was based on primary color, symmetry, and decision-making text. But I hated making faces that looked like I was taking a fucking cum shot to the dome.
Yeah.
But that's what we did.
I think they look really nice. But
thanks.
Julian is known for the. How'd you come up with just black background?
I was really trying to find out. I needed a uniform cadence.
Yeah.
When you're on YouTube and you binge and you look at your next up on the right side, or if you're on your phone scrolling down, Joe Rogan doesn't have to try it all because he's Joe Rogan.
Yep.
Right? He invented the space. He can do whatever he wants to do. So objectively, his thumbnails are not good. It doesn't matter. But the one thing they do have going for them is their uniform. From a mile away, that's a Joe Rogan podcast.
Very true.
Because that's just the guy in the middle, and that's his background.
You know that curtain. Yeah.
Right? A Lex Friedman podcast because it's black, it's got the face, and it's got Lex Friedman podcast number whatever. You know it's flagrant because it's got guest, Andrew Schultz, name a guest.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would see how uniform all these things were, and mine were different colors and different texts and two faces, a lot going on. And for a podcast,
I'm just laughing because mine are like that.
well, no, but I'm saying that's how you have to build the pop. But I was at a size where I could start trying to experiment with something. I'm like, all right, what's the number one thing that gets people interested? The words. The words are the number one thing. All right, white with red. Red is a decision-making color. Let's make it more simple. Let's take all this complexity and bullshit that it had, and let's simplify it. And first, I tried to start with the Danny Jones model. I committed to it for 2 months in July 2024.
Okay.
Where it's just picture of the person, name of the show. Terrible. It bombed. I committed to it, and it was like at the end of 2 months, I called Danny. I said, because I talk with him like every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's bombed. Congratulations to you. You were able to set this system. That's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
So I started fucking around before the Lou Elizondo episode, and I landed on something similar to what I have right here. And then the next one with Taylor Kavanaugh, I had something very similar. And then I really got designing, and I landed on it with Shawnee, and I had the underline system that was for 239. Then I had the underline system good by episode 242 with Tommy G. And then I had the text system pretty much set by like probably episode
100 and some.
Yeah, probably 248 with the drivers.
Sheesh.
Yeah, where it's like 3 lines with the red starting as the
Episode
second
in the middle.
word,
Yep.
and then the middle one popping. And we always perfect little things. There's little teeny things that you wouldn't notice that change, but like I'm always thinking on that. And I'll make, to this day, sometimes I'll make 15 for the same episode iterations of the text, because the geometry of the text and the way that it aligns with the face is actually
Important.
about 30 to 40% of it. The other 60, 70% is what the text says, of course.
Yeah.
And what does the picture of the person say something? And I've tried to tone down big time, like those ones with Matt LaCroix, like this, like Ancient Alien cover up. I've tried to tone that down.
Yeah.
I'm slowly toning
Do those
down.
really get better clicks or no? Like,
Well, they
the
don't
ones
now.
With reactions?
They
don't
did
now.
at the time,
Not now.
but people wouldn't. I didn't have a uniform, so people didn't always know it was mine coming up.
Yeah.
Didn't stand out immediately. Their eye had to work. Oh, that's Julian. There he is on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Now they know. Oh, there's a new episode, because the uniform logo's in the top left corner, person's on the right side. You got the white triangle with the black mesh background and the text right there, and the number in the bottom left corner. So you know this is an episode. It's Julian. Before you have even decided to read it or figure out whether you want to watch it, you know it's me. And that's what we needed to land on. And I'll always be iterating there. My goal is to de-evolutionize. Eventually, I'd like to have a shitty thumbnail like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Greatest thing ever. Like,
minimal work for you is what
it's also no work.
No work, and it basically means my brand does the talking.
That's correct.
My title of the episode does the speaking for
He's
the
earned
episode.
every bit of that.
Pretty
and you
much.
got to earn that.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. So I'm de-evolutionizing slowly. So I tried to speed it up with the Danny Jones model.
Yeah.
Didn't work. So I went, okay, well, we'll come back here. But we're not here anymore.
Yes.
We're here now. And I can live with it. So like when Lee Cronin's like, yeah, I was talking with, like he was mentioning Sarah Amani Walker, because he works with her, another physicist. And she's like, oh yeah, I've seen that podcast. I wonder what it'll do for the thumbnail, because they do clickbaity stuff. I'm like, God damn it.
No.
I'm like, Lee, it's not that. I'm like, people got to click it. And he's like, no, I know.
Yeah.
I know. But I'm like, it's a lot less than it used to be.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing. We do things, the number one thing we look for is it has to be accurate. The quote that's put on the thumbnail has to accurately reflect a topic from the episode. The thing that's unfortunate is I have to pick the most ridiculous thing. So I'll give you an example. I did episode 277 with my boy Mark Agnon. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
3 hours of us just shooting the shit. Pure comedy podcast, covering a whole bunch of different cool topics. we do it live. I never plan what's going to happen. It goes where it goes. That's true.
Yeah.
But I knew when Mark came in, there'll be something in there, something marketable.
Yeah.
So he brings up some Rockefeller that got eaten by cannibals. So that's what the thumbnail was.
Yeah.
That's 10 minutes of the episode. But you got to pick one topic for the thumbnail out of the millions that happen in every episode. So the thumbnail said they ate the Rockefeller alive. And then the title mentions like the mystery of the lost Rockefeller.
I know the story. Yeah.
And then a few other things. And it works.
Yeah.
But it's not like I want to have the day where it's like Mark Gagnon's here. And that's it. And people are going to click.
Yeah.
If I had done that, instead of 100,000 views, it'd have 15,000 views.
Yes.
And that's what sucks about the business. I wish there were a better way. One of the great lies that's ever been perpetuated, I don't want to say lies, but, you know, things that are not said out loud correctly by, I guess, like people representing YouTube, is that watch time's as important as click-through. That's bullshit.
I think that is, yeah.
It's click-through.
Yeah.
They care about clicks. They don't want to admit that, but the difference between a video that comes out of the gate getting clicked 7.1% of the time and a video getting clicked at 6.2% of the time is fucking-mental.
It is. It's the huge difference.
And it is so competitive out there with great content creators across all different, I'm not talking about just podcasts. Think about all the types of videos that go onto YouTube.
Yeah.
You are competing on those clicks. And so I've always tried to slowly do it at the least amount of aggression as I can, but recognizing the fact that I'm not Joe Rogan at all, haven't earned that right. Yeah. I'm not Lex Friedman at all, haven't earned that right, can't do boring thumbnails. Fucking Stephen Bartlett, though, who's the second biggest podcast in the world by a lot.
Does simple.
Okay? Yeah. But he does thumbnails that are decision-making thumbnails like mine. They're not like Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan. They test like crazy. They change quotes all the time. They're testing all the time. They've used my thumbnail ideas on their thumbnails. They're looking at every channel and seeing what's working. Those guys do an amazing fucking job. Maybe it'll never end, but I'd like it to get to the point where I don't have to make them.
I think seriously one day you will be at the Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan level.
I hope so.
No, to me you already are, but
that's my bank account respectfully disagrees with you.
No. So let's get into some quick questions. Let's have some fun. Just 1 or 2 word answers.
Okay.
Have fun. Take your time. Think about it. Honestly, as one of the biggest podcasters in the world, let me know what you even think about the segment. If you like it, if you don't like answering questions.
I don't care. Fire away.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Current mood.
Current mood?
I'm going to be very vague for the next.
All right. Chill.
Who are you?
Who am I?
Who are you?
Julian Dorey.
What are you?
A YouTuber.
Where are we right now?
New Jersey.
Why are you here?
Because I want to do this podcast.
What's today's date?
April 9th.
All right. Silence or background noise?
Depends on my personal vibe during the time period.
Would you rather have loud noises forever, or would you rather have silence forever? That's how this is going to go down right here.
Oh, God.
You're going to obfuscate, and I'm going to bring it right back to the point.
Silent noises forever or loud noises forever?
Yep. While you think, let's double check this.
Silence, because I can create noises.
I like that.
That's actually pretty easy.
No, that was pretty easy. Fight a kangaroo or wrestle a crocodile? Both of them in their natural territory. So you would be fighting the kangaroo.
No, I'm absolutely going to take... Wait.
Yeah. Have you seen the kangaroo video?
Yeah. Kangaroos can fucking fight, bro.
They don't play games.
I'm going to take the kangaroo because I'm a boxer. I got a shot. A crocodile, I'm in their territory, which is water, which is not our natural territory. And if you ever seen a crocodile fuck people up in the water, I mean, they turn motherfuckers over. They sneak up. They spin you like they got a size of a fucking nickel for a brain.
Yeah.
But when it comes to hunting, like once they're in the moment, like they got it. Yeah.
Marketing or product?
Marketing.
Save or spend?
I'm thinking from a business mindset. Spend.
Wake up late or stay up early?
Wake up late or wake up early?
Yeah. Stay up late or wake up early, sorry.
Used to, for the first 4 years of the podcast, I went to bed at 4 or 5 a.m. every morning. Now I do not ever do that. I'm the same schedule every day, so wake up early.
Engine or brakes?
Engine.
Chain or watch?
Chain.
Push or pull?
Ooh.
It's the same thing with engine and brakes. Push or pull?
Pull.
Power or stamina?
Stamina, because I could knock you the fuck out with stamina.
Off-road or open road?
Open road.
Good lighting or good camera? You only get one.
Great cameras can overcome bad lighting.
Be permanently barefoot or always have wet socks on?
Easy. I walk barefoot. Like, I get in trouble walking barefoot places.
What's one song that describes your life right now?
Ooh. One song that describes my life?
Right now. Like, so it's not like your favorite song, just one song
Yeah,
that you
like,
feel in the moment.
Describes my...
Maybe something you play all the time.
I
You could pass.
Yeah, I'll pass. I don't have one. I'll give an answer later. I'm like, what? What does that even mean?
A portal opens up, okay? Two different worlds. There's two women that come out of the portal. A sexy, medieval, she's dressed in medieval garb. She looks crazy and king. And then a cyborg girl who's very attractive. I don't know why they're women. Which portal are you going? And they both say, come back with me to my time period. Which one would you go to? Would you go with her to the past or would you go with her to the future? You see how I have to word all of that just to
I
ask
gotta
you
go the one to the future because there's more resources there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's easy. But that medieval sounds like some wild sex.
No, I didn't. I'm literally just trying to ask.
I feel like she'd be a low-key freak.
I've asked that question to many people, and many people go, well, I don't know about this. So I have to do this entire situation.
Yeah.
Would you rather go to the future or the past?
I feel like she'd be a freak and the cyborg might have autism, so she'd be like really finicky in bed.
True.
Like some medieval shit. Like,
some kinky stuff.
But I need resources.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I ain't trying to go back to bubonic plague, bro.
Money or fame?
Money.
Money or legacy?
Legacy.
Unlimited money or
Those were so easy in that order. Yeah.
Unlimited money or unlimited freedom?
Unlimited freedom.
Laugh or learn?
Laugh, because you're usually learning about something when you laugh.
Simulation, yes or no?
Maybe.
How do you say the word C-R-A-Y-O-N?
Crayon?
One more time?
Huh?
One more time?
Crayon?
Yeah, you put the crayon. Some people say crayon.
Oh,
Some people
no.
say
No.
crane. Some people say crane. Some people say crayon. I say crayon. It's a crayon. You say crayon.
I haven't said that since the Vietnam War ended, so I couldn't tell you. Now I'm thinking about it.
PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation. Easy. I had a .08 KD on Call of Duty on Xbox, and I retired. I was good at PS2.
That's why.
It was bad. Yeah. It was not good. Yeah.
Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan?
Oh.
I know.
Oh, that's the worst one yet. Michael Jordan, because he doesn't have any allegations against him in that way.
Okay. Do you talk to yourself?
Absolutely.
Would you rather be in the headline or the credits?
Credits.
That is, yeah. 1 million USD or 1 million Bitcoin? If I gave you right now.
$1 million worth of Bitcoin?
1 million USD or just $1 million of Bitcoin? Yeah. So it would only be whatever.
At the moment, I might actually say Bitcoin, especially because it just tanked 25%. Yeah.
True.
Bitcoin right now.
Would you rather have dirt cheap? I'm not gonna fuck this up.
Okay.
Would you rather have dirty clothes that are expensive or cheap clothes that are clean?
Cheap clothes that are clean.
Light or dark colors?
Dark.
Some people, you're probably the only person that said cheap clothes that are clean. Me
Bro,
too.
I thrift shop.
I'm the same way. I feel like you don't need a.
No.
Yeah.
I make other shit look good.
What do you do when you're stressed?
Go for a walk.
Do you trust yourself?
Sometimes.
Speak or stay silent?
A lot of times.
You didn't sound that confident.
Speak or stay silent.
Yeah.
Totally depends on the situation.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a specific situation, but we don't.
Yeah.
If there was no such thing as money or time, what would you do all day?
Just create shit. Create anything.
Domesticate any animal. Which one would you domesticate? Elephant? Zebras?
Elephant. I love elephants.
Wolf or dog?
Dog.
Dog or cat?
Dog.
That was easy.
I'll fuck with cats.
Do you brush your teeth in the shower?
In the shower? That's sociopathic.
It's very productive, but it
No.
is very gross.
No.
Do you
I've
pee-
never done that once in my life. I never will.
Do you pee in the shower?
Only if I can hit the drain perfectly and my feet are not right there.
Of course.
And someone else is not in the shower with me.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how hot
I actually
is...
had a chick piss in the shower with me one time.
Okay. Not a good one.
Was not into that.
They can't aim.
No, they
They
can't.
have no aim, so
Yeah.
it's...
She wasn't hydrated either.
What's a go-to... What's a go-to karaoke song?
California Love by Tupac and Dr. Dre.
You see a puppy and an elderly man hanging off of a bridge. You're also hanging from the bridge. You have one hand holding on the bridge. You get to either
Elderly
swing-
guys lived a good life.
I'm leaving with a puppy.
Sorry. It's math.
Do you have any nicknames?
Jules, JD.
Are there aliens? Don't lie. Tell me
Are there
me
aliens
the
that
truth.
exist?
Yeah.
100%. Have they been here? I don't know.
Heart or mind?
Heart.
Is there a God?
Yes.
If you could ask God one question, what would it be? That one's deep. I know. We could skip that one.
Yes.
Win a Grammy? Yeah.
Skip.
No, I don't let anyone skip it. You could skip
Yeah,
it.
I'm
Everybody.
skipping that one.
Win a Grammy or win an Oscar? Meaning win for a really good song or do a really good performance. In an
The
acting
reason
gig.
I'll say Oscar is because I damn near actually became an actor
Really?
when I was in college. Yeah.
Did
So
you
I'll
actually
say
act?
Oscar. Not on a stage, but yeah. I won't get into that, but yeah, did a little bit.
Would you accept $1,000 a day to not bathe or groom, and then how long would you go? $1,000 a day, no shaving, no shower, and you have to put in like a time frame, like, hey, I'm gonna do 2 months, and then
All right, that's easy. I would build up enough podcasts so I don't have to film for a month. I could get away with that, and I'd collect $30,000
do a
for
month.
30 days and do insane edits for 30 days and not go around people. That's very easy.
That is actually
Yeah.
that was easier than it should have been.
Yeah, spray some Windex and walk through it.
Lose your humor or lose your intelligence.
Lose my intelligence because I could still laugh about life.
Would you rather drive a known road or go on a new road?
I like new roads.
Is your car clean?
Yes.
Is your room clean?
Yes.
FBI or CIA? Very divisive questions here.
Yeah, marry, fuck, kill. These would not be the marry. I'd say CIA because the FBI has been a in particularly insane clusterfuck with a lower level of talent than CIA.
Yeah. Push yourself or push others?
I've always pushed others. The thing is, you can't teach people to want it for themselves the way you want it for them. That's the issue. That's one of the worst realities I've come to in life. I've seen so many people with incredible talents and things, and they could, but I want it for them more than they want it for themselves. So I'd say push myself because I can actually control that.
No respect.
I would rather push other people, but you can't do that.
Yeah. There's a saying, you can't bring the horse to water.
Right.
He drinks something.
Exactly.
He does something when you bring
That's
him.
right. You can't make them drink.
What's your favorite war of all time?
World War II.
The most content, most best
Revolutionary War is up there though.
Would you read which one? Sorry.
Revolutionary War. I fuck with the
Oh,
Revolutionary
of
War
course.
heavy.
Me as well.
Yeah.
I do a lot of I don't know why. I love origin stories.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
I learned new things about that war all the time. The amount of moving pieces there were in that thing is insane.
Yeah.
And so much was so close to not happening. And those motherfuckers were gangsters, bro.
What's your favorite part of the war? We could also talk about
Yeah.
I love
favorite part of the
Revolution.
Revolutionary War?
How we killed all
You
those
know what?
damn redcoats.
Yeah, it's probably
That's what I loved.
well. There were multiple theaters.
Yeah.
But
In New York.
my favorite part of the war is studying Washington manipulating the Northeast corridor between Philadelphia and New York and plotting how to get it back. And he was able to end up taking New York without a bullet.
Yeah.
Which is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
He never had to retake it because they got kicked out of there famously. Exactly.
And basically they beat their ass everywhere else, and then they just walked in.
And then they walked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they beat them. They won that war on spying. That's why they won the war.
Yeah.
They outspied the British.
Yeah, there's crazy elaborate stories on how to leave spy messages and
the Culper spy ring.
Yeah.
They made a show out of that too on AMC. That shit was legit. And
the lady with the towels. Okay.
Yeah, she was part of it.
Okay.
Exactly. And the Culper spy ring was based out of New York, and they were constantly getting intelligence from the nucleus there, and then they ended up using their intelligence to trap the British at Yorktown in 1781 with the French Navy and Washington's forces coming down from Jersey to help with that. So yeah, it's a wild war, and like H.W. Brands wrote an amazing book called Our First Civil War. Okay. Because one of the ignored parts is like what happens at the end. Because a lot of people were loyalists. What happened to them?
Oh, yeah.
They left.
Meaning the War of 1812? Is that
No. The Revolutionary War, he refers to it as our first Civil War, and he's correct.
Oh, because it is
because it literally was a nation within a nation. There's a lot of people fighting for the British who were born and raised in America.
Yeah.
And the chaos of like, they weren't welcome when the war was over. If you were a loyalist, you were known as a Tory, as a loyalist.
Yeah.
People don't think about it. They fucking went to Nova Scotia. Some of them had to move to England for the first time in their lives.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't this like happy, like, all right, we're America now. It was like, it wasn't good. And there wasn't a good relationship with Britain.
Hello there. I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely, beautiful podcast, but a quick reminder to like, follow, and subscribe. You can get the full video versions on YouTube and Spotify. You can get the social media on X, TikTok, Instagram. If you like what we're doing, share this with a friend. If not, who cares about you? Now let's get back into the show.
And it gets complicated, but I try to just look at it through the lens of here's what's good, here's what's bad, here's what we can learn. Like Bruce Lee, take what's good, discard what's bad. Move on.
That's what I try to ask with the question favorite war. I don't mean it to be a bad
Oh, yeah,
but I feel like that's great to even open up, to know somebody.
But those guys, the guys who built America were fucking amazing. I mean, it's really what they pulled off was amazing.
What's an odd smell that you enjoy?
Odd smell?
Yeah. Gasoline, money, basements, women, liquor, drugs.
Women's not an odd smell. I mean, unless you're really down there in the box and they haven't fucking showered.
I've heard some weird smells.
I like women that smell good.
No weird odd smell you enjoy?
I can't. No.
Do you have any trophies displayed in your home?
No.
No participation?
No.
He's like, what am I weird?
Yeah, I don't.
Me either, but people do.
Yeah, I don't. YouTube like sends those plaques.
Yeah.
I got like 4 of them. Couldn't tell you where they are. I might have thrown them out.
You should keep those. I mean, I don't know.
You can have them if you want them.
Can people change?
Yes.
Ever fake a sickness to call out of school?
Absolutely.
Did you ever cheat in high school or any school?
Yes, but usually it was people cheating off me. So I let them cheat.
Yeah. Are we born good or bad?
It's the baby Hitler question.
Pretty much. He's like,
No, but I think we can know the day someone's born which way it might head in very rare cases, just based on environment. If you knew all the factors about the environment, which you don't, but if you were God and you could say,
I see. Okay.
we're gonna make this kid born to a mom and an absentee father and a weird stepfather, and he's gonna live in Germany and hate the Jews. Like, that's gonna be Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
There could be some things there.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure he gets fucking banned from art school
100%.
and blames it on the Jews.
I
Like,
agree.
there's shit like that, but you'd have to be an omniscient God to know.
Yeah. I would say, it's more the environment there.
Yes.
Things along that line.
Yeah.
Do you ever drink from the hose as a kid?
Oh yeah.
Straight out the tap. Do souls exist?
Yes.
Do soulmates exist?
Yes.
What's the last thing you changed your mind about?
My thumbnail yesterday.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Who would play you in a movie?
Ooh. I don't know. I've never thought about that. I have no idea.
Let the people tell us. Who should play Julian in a movie? I don't know either. It's a good one though.
I have no idea.
Would you rather be a famous painter or a famous clothing brand owner?
Painter.
Like a famous designer or a famous painter?
Painter.
Would you rather own a baby penguin or a baby panda?
I fuck with pandas.
Me
Yeah.
as well. No, panda's definitely a good one. SEO or hashtags? What's more important?
You're asking the wrong guy on that.
Do you know what they are?
I know what they
Okay.
are, but like I don't.
I was gonna say, if you don't know what they are, that's amazing.
No, I don't. I am not an expert in using
Freestyle or written?
freestyle.
Offense or defense?
Offense.
Sword or shield?
Sword.
Ammo or armor?
Ammo.
You have a favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Favorite Christmas movie?
Elf.
That is great. Did you cry during Elf? Is that the last? What's the last movie you cried
I
in?
probably did. I probably cried during
think I
Elf.
cried
I don't
too.
want to rewatch it, but.
What's the last movie you cried at? Do you remember?
Oh, fuck. I just watched the finale in 1923. And I cried at that.
What is? Oh, I feel like I just saw.
It's
didn't just
like
see
a
this movie,
limited
but I've
series
seen-
that is about. I've never seen Yellowstone, which is like a full show, but it's
Okay.
like one of the prequel series to that.
Right.
So I'd watched 1923. Like they had like 2 8-hour seasons of it, and so I'd
Jeez.
watched the first season of that, like, because I thought it was just going to be one season.
Yeah.
So I really only watch limited series when I can, because I don't have time to watch shit.
True.
But I watched that like over a year ago, and then they're like, they're doing another one. Fuck.
Yeah.
So I watched the other one, and the last episode of that definitely got me.
Yeah. Does the internet help or hurt mankind?
It helps net. It helps by a good bit too, but there's pain that comes with that help.
What's worse, burning or drowning alive?
Oof. Your body doesn't let you give up when you're drowning. So the prolonged panic is longer. The burn is incredibly painful, but it can happen faster and get through your nervous system. So I guess it's better to burn alive.
Quicker.
They're both bad.
They're both terrible. Do you have a favorite sound? I really like the sound of a metal bat hitting a ball. I'm just trying to give you sounds. I know you know sounds.
Yeah.
I also really like hollow. I'm imagining a woman walking on like heels on a wooden floor, something along those lines.
So you're saying like an actual sound effect?
I could tell you people. I don't want to taint you with other people's answers, but I can't. Some people like their Cash App. Some people like
I was
the
just
sound of food sizzling.
I like the sound of a piano better than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you prefer spoiler or surprise?
Surprise.
You look weirded out by that question. Why this guy asking me my favorite sound? What the fuck?
No. I was just thinking about
Best fast food fries.
Man, I haven't had fast food in a long time. I mean, probably McDonald's. Yeah, they were addictive. I'm sure they put some fucking chemicals in there.
public humiliation or a private failure? Which would you rather?
Private failure.
Is the glass half empty or is the glass
Half full.
Be invisible or read minds?
It's an easy answer. I'm
It
not
is,
going to
yeah.
explain why. Be invisible.
Could you survive in a zombie apocalypse?
Yes.
How?
I got quick hands.
I added the how. How is
They're
not
not,
a
zombies aren't going to get you to the ground because they don't move well on their limbs. They're all like bionicle.
What if they're World War Z zombies? Yeah.
I'm really good with an AR, and I got good hands.
Word.
So I think they're fucked.
What's your favorite podcast right now?
You know, I
That's a hard
really
one.
don't listen to podcasts very much at
Who
all.
are you?
At all. I don't have time.
Word.
I used to listen all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
You can
I
pass.
I
You
don't
can
know.
always
I don't see anyone
I don't wanna
do. I
pass.
still don't see anyone do a better job overall than Joe.
Yeah.
I don't see how the answer could be anything besides that. I will say this: Theo Vaughn's incredible.
Well, just because that doesn't mean it's your favorite, though. Just 'cause they're
I think
doing
it is.
their
No, but
best.
it is.
Okay,
He
for
always
you.
was, and I don't see how that could have changed.
True.
Because like when he has on someone like crazy, like when he had Russell Crowe, that was like, stop what I'm doing. Let's put that on in the background. Like, and it's great every
True.
time. He's so fucking good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see how he's not still my favorite. I don't see how he won't be my favorite. But I will say Theo Vaughn is doing some incredible work.
He is. It's like two different things, I feel like.
Yes, but Theo used to be just a pure comedy podcast, right?
Mm.
He still plays that Theo character, and it's still funny as fuck. Don't get me wrong, but like, he knows how to get serious too, and he asks amazing questions
He
and
does.
really opens people up. I
Yeah.
don't think he gets enough credit for that. He's really, really fucking good.
Yeah.
Like superhuman.
No,
good.
he is, and he's hilarious, and he gets people to talk about things
Yeah.
that you wouldn't even think about.
Yep. Yeah, I think Theo's incredible.
Yeah. I feel like he's he's a chameleon. Like
yeah.
when he has a black guy on, he puts the shades on, and he's talking like he is from the hood. And when he has a scientist on, he tries to, he's like a chameleon. Joe Rogan is a set stone.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get the same version of him no matter who comes in the studio. But I feel like Theo Vaughn, exactly,
He adapts.
which
Yeah.
is why I like him.
Yeah.
He's cool as hell.
When I just want to say it, I just write it down.
You do a lot of impressions. I like him.
His fucking his wake face, whatever you want to call it, his stone face is incredible. I just write it down.
No,
What
it is crazy.
the fuck?
When he said to Donald Trump, "When you take cocaine, you're like
You're like an owl out on the.
I will."
And
Yo,
Trump's like, "Ooh, oh, that's down and dirty, huh?"
that was definitely like one of the best podcast interview moments I've seen. I was like,
Oh, that was
holy
good.
shit.
That was so good.
Like he got ball. I don't know if it's that he has balls or he's just so in the moment, so like naive. He's just
I
like,
think it's a
I'm-
combination. I don't know him,
Yeah.
so I'd love to know him and then be able to get a real read. But I
Yeah.
think it's a combination of balls and just beautiful, blissful ignorance at
I think
shame.
it's that. I think it's
And
both.
that's
Yeah.
such a huge skill to have,
Yeah,
and good for him.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's no shame, and he
No,
owns
he
it.
is. Have you ever seen the Matt and Shane podcast?
I watch clips of that. It
Okay.
comes up,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Those are literally my two favorite comedy podcasts.
yeah. Listen, like Shane Gillis I'd watch him read the phone book.
No, he just
He's
did
so
Story
funny.
Wars, and it was a great episode just to watch.
He's so funny, man.
Yeah. You've seen Tires? Probably not. It's a show on it.
The show on Netflix. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
No, it's really good. Christmas or Halloween, but you already asked that
Yeah,
one. Would
Christmas.
you rather be able to talk to animals or objects?
Ooh, animals.
No inanimate objects, like a rock or
Animals.
a bridge. A
Animals,
bridge.
because I know they're real.
Play chess or checkers?
Chess.
Winter fashion or summer fashion?
Summer. I'm a big cut off sleeves guy.
If you had an assistant, what would you make them do first?
Oh my god, where do we start? I'm up to 47,000 and change unread emails. Start with that.
Hello there. I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely, beautiful podcast, but a quick reminder to like, follow, and subscribe. You can get the full video versions on YouTube and Spotify. You can get the social media on X, TikTok, Instagram. If you like what we're doing, share this with a friend. If not, who cares about you? Now let's get back into the show. Show.
Because we're gonna work hard.
Yeah.
But like, I pay very well.
Be around others or be alone?
Be around others.
That's
easy.
Have you ever owned a slip and slide?
Owned one? No.
Used one?
Yeah.
I guess you were a kid, so
Yeah.
we wouldn't own one
Yeah.
back then. Yeah. Would you rather live in a skyscraper in the city, or you know what I'm gonna say?
No.
Oh, a skyscraper in the city, or a farmhouse, like a
Skyscraper in the city.
or a farmhouse in a suburban.
Skyscraper. I love both.
Okay.
I like having a mix, but to live,
To live.
I need to be in a city. I need to be around a lot of people. Like once I'm like off the reservation for like a week or two, I'm like, all right, let's get back.
Would you rather live in one place forever, or move every year? Every year you got to get up and move your entire life.
I'd live in one place forever because I can travel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy.
These are not that easy. But
That
you're
one's
making
easy.
them very easy.
Yeah, I can.
People
There's
think a lot
there's
very hard for these.
There's
You're like,
loopholes. There's loopholes in some
no,
of these.
you have found
Huge loopholes.
Please no.
I mean, I could say that I'm taxably living in Florida and go on vacation 364 days a year. As
All
long
right,
as
no
it's outside the United
vacations.
States.
I could get mean with it. No
No,
vacations.
no, that's not realistic. You're not in prison.
None of these are realistic.
That's not realistic.
Would you accidentally rather send a sexy text to your parent or your boss?
I don't have a boss, so my boss.
There's,
I'll send it to me.
You know what?
Because
These
I'm
questions.
in my phone. It's
There's
my
so
phone.
many loopholes.
Yeah.
There's no point. Theme park or water park?
Water park.
Elevator or stairs?
Stairs.
Clubbing or bar hopping? That's a good one.
I love the club,
Okay.
but I'm not in my club era right now, so it's bar hopping right now. I've always loved bars. It's just like that feeling of shutting down the club at 4 a.m. and just having ungodly overpriced bottles throughout the night, but a great group of friends and having the time of your life. You got to go there with friends. Like going to a club just like with one friend or something, that's not, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you go with a group of people, having a good time, you got a good mix of chicks and dudes, like, good time.
Would you rather be alone or with others?
Others. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, by a lot.
Okay. I'm very much rather be alone.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm a quality time guy, for sure.
I am a quality time guy. But exactly that. I don't spend a lot of time with people, so like that time that I do spend with them, I make it very quantitable.
I see what you're saying.
If that makes sense.
But also, like, wanting to do something like this, you might want to think about that a little bit, because that means there might be something there that you're not in touch with.
No, this is actually why I feel like I do this. Don't you? It makes me very uncomfortable to meet new people and go out and constantly
Really?
talk. Yeah. I'm very introverted, very only child syndrome, very don't.
I'm an only child too.
Yeah, very don't. So you hopefully can relate. I don't like to. I'd rather hang out with myself than hang out with other people. But that's why I started the podcast, because I want to meet new people, and that's a bad thing about myself. It's a crux. I need to be more sociable and meet more people and be uncomfortable.
But you're enjoying it. I can tell you enjoy it. That's why I'm curious to see if you'll think about that more.
Yeah, no,
because I always craved being around people because I was an only child.
Yeah,
and I was always in that way, like bystander and outsider. So I wanted to be around people. I've always had the very good problem. Much rather have this problem than the contrary, but I've always had the very good problem of having way too many friends.
Wow.
That's a good issue to have, I think.
It is. Maybe, yeah. I'm thinking that's probably because we have no siblings, if that makes sense. Because I do the same thing. I'm just trying to relate to you. I make my friends my siblings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I have friends that I've grown up with since I was a kid that are like my brothers. I literally say to them, I love them, because I do. They're like my brothers in a way.
I got that too.
Yeah.
I think it's a complicated question, but you're definitely part of shaping who I am and what I am. A big part of it is, you want to talk about environment, being an only child, and the things that came with that.
So you would recommend that a podcaster not be?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it definitely there's aspects of that and what came with my situation and being an only child and like where I lived and the types of things I did and whatever that played a role. And I also always had to people watch. I mean, that's why I was almost an actor too. It's like I always people watched and picked up on things people would do and like try to do that. I mean, that's why like my accent is not from any one place. It's a mix of a lot of different places because I spent time around a lot of different people from different places that talk in different ways, and you don't think about it, but you take that on. So I don't have like this.
I don't have that. I'm like, that's why I don't do impersonations. That's why I don't do these things. I was never around a lot of people that do these things.
Interesting. I don't know. I just always studied people.
Yeah. No, it's cool. So, hoodie or jacket?
Hoodie.
Jeans or sweats?
Sweats.
Would you rather be rich or happy? That was easy.
Happy.
Beer or liquor?
Liquor.
Would you rather have 1 million followers on Instagram or 1 million subscribers on YouTube?
1 million subscribers on YouTube.
People say Instagram.
That's
Julian,
crazy.
They say Instagram.
I need to build Instagram, but like if YouTube is way more important.
It's like they don't even realize.
Instagram's very important. Don't get me wrong. I got to work on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm dead serious about working on that.
Yeah.
But like between the two, are you kidding me?
How about YouTube or Twitch? That's actually a better one.
Twitch looks great. I'm not the guy to ask
Looks
on Twitch.
great from a distance.
I'm not the guy to ask about that.
Rain or snow?
Snow.
Lose all your teeth or lose all your hair?
Ooh. Teeth, because I could get those implants.
Stop. No implants.
Yeah. I could get them veneers.
Would you go back in time? But for however long you go back in time, you lose that on your life. How long would you go back?
I wouldn't go back.
If you would at all.
I wouldn't go back.
Yeah.
I think you gotta. There's things everyone would change, but you can also learn, and you don't have to be what you were.
Not sure. Yeah. What's the last thing you Googled?
Your address.
Okay, let's not say that out loud. Tesla or Einstein?
Ooh, see, it would be easy. No offense, because of where we are, it'd be easy to say Tesla versus Edison and say Tesla, but Tesla versus Einstein is tough.
Exactly.
Einstein because he had the opportunity to make the effect.
Lottery or slots?
Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Tesla's an interesting guy, though.
We could.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole.
I feel like Edison and Tesla would have been way too easy of a question to ask.
That's a good one. Einstein versus Tesla. Yeah. Einstein's the answer. But
have you heard of the things Einstein not really writing that stuff himself?
There's always some stuff that they didn't really write. There's not one person that has a clean record. Yeah. There's not one person in that space or anything.
Yeah, I agree.
That has a clean record.
Once you reach a certain echelon, Patrick Bet-David says it all the time. You idolize, then you humanize, and then you demonize.
That's right.
Like, so no matter what, if you make it to that level, people are going to demonize you and say, what did Einstein do wrong?
Right.
In a way. What's one live TV show that you would go to? Live taping?
Live taping?
Yeah.
Wait, you mean where you're in the audience, but it's not live on TV? They tape for later.
One more time?
So like the way they do the night shows where they tape it, but then it comes out later?
Imagining Maury, Jerry Springer, The Daily Show.
Oh, Maury. Maury. That's the answer.
Feud.
Maury. I'm going to Maury.
Maury, yeah.
Maury is savage.
Those are probably great.
Yes.
Those are probably great.
Yes.
What's your I could totally do that job? You look at someone and you're like, dude, I could do that guy's job.
Well, I don't want to say it like that because I don't want to say discount what people are doing or great shit.
What's a job?
But when I watch actors, yeah, 100%, yeah.
I should probably ask that in a better way.
No, that was good.
Yeah. No, like in a way that exactly what you just said doesn't. It sounds condescending. Like I could do that.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I don't say it like that. But they're like, I'm moved by great performances, and I know I could do it.
Lose all your memories or lose all your money?
Lose all your money.
Flip a coin for $1 million or take $100K right now?
Take the $100K right now because I know exactly how I'd spend it.
Own an island or a skyscraper?
In the post-Jeffrey Epstein era, that's not an even remotely hard question to answer. I'm
know.
going to own a skyscraper
All of the island
where
questions
everyone
are-
else can see it.
If everyone look right here.
And no one can sneak onto that fucking place without me knowing.
I'm gonna do a few more because I actually have to skedaddle.
Okay.
I gotta go to the city. I gotta go to
Oh,
Story
yeah,
Wars.
you got to go do something.
Ever have a pool growing up?
At my parents' house? No.
Never had a
Yeah.
Okay. Be in a band or be a solo artist. So you could be like a really big musician, but you get to tour the world by yourself, or you get to be the Beatles.
That's
whatever.
actually easy for music. It's solo because when it comes to creativity, you have a vision, and that's why a lot of bands break up.
They usually-
Getting everyone to dial in on the same vision is almost impossible in a heavily creative endeavor. That's why there's one director for a movie, unless it's like two brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the intro, I called you a photographer, and you didn't like that one either.
It's not that I didn't like it. I was
photographer.
like, when have I ever
Do you not take pictures for the podcast? Even on Instagram?
I take I hit control format 4 and screenshot
No, but there's pictures that are taken.
in the studio
Yes.
of just like us. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
your
me saying,
headshots.
Alessi, take my phone.
So Alessi's the photographer.
Yeah, I take the ones of him and the guests.
Yeah, but no, being a podcaster, you are a photographer, video editor, director.
yeah,
producer.
that the other stuff. Yes, 100%.
We asked you play chess or checkers.
Yeah,
Do you know how to play chess?
Chess. Yeah,
Are you good?
I haven't played in a while, so no, I wouldn't say I'm good, but it's a
Okay.
great game.
I'm like above average, yeah.
Yeah, you probably kick my ass.
Learn a new language or learn a new instrument.
Instrument.
Do you sing in the shower?
Absolutely.
My heart out.
That's actually like one. I don't know if I should say it. I'm not gonna say it
Don't
out
say
loud.
it. Less editing. Don't say it.
I'm not gonna say that out loud.
Be good at one thing or average at everything.
Be good at one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scuba diving or skydiving.
Scuba diving.
You get to. Sorry, you look like you were thinking.
Yeah, scuba diving.
Live performance. You get to go see your favorite artist, see him at a live performance, or you get to see him at a studio session, like behind the scenes.
Studio
making songs.
session, not even close.
You're making me feel like my questions suck.
No.
Stand-up comedy
No.
or live music?
Live music.
Beard or clean shaven?
I mean, you're getting me on the 1 week where I didn't shave. I've been rocking clean shaven for a while, so I'll go with that.
What's the nicest car you've ever rented or driven?
Rented?
Or
I don't
driven.
think I've ever rented a car in my
Me
life.
either. Have you ever driven?
Driven a nice car? Yeah.
What's the nicest?
My
yeah.
favorite car I ever drove was my boss in college and my internship. He had a brand new BMW 7 Series, and that fucking thing was a submarine. It's a nice car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year was it? Do you remember? If you
I don't remember, but this was a decade ago.
ask,
Maybe 8 years ago, something like that.
ask for advice or give advice?
Ask for advice.
Boat or plane?
Every time I'm taking my walk along the Hudson, I just think about how badass it would be. I know it's a terrible investment. Like, I don't ever spend money on anything, but one thing I would spend a little fuck you money on just to go right down the toilet and waste happily is like a nice 50-foot boat to just trail up the Hudson right there and
That'd be
feel
dope.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a sailboat? No.
No, fuck that. I want a boat with a motor. I don't want to do work.
I'm making
The
sure.
fuck out of a sailboit.
The fuck do I look like a sailboat?
Do I look like I want to do work?
I look like
Does
the
the
yacht
engine
club?
work, and can I hit the fucking gas? If it doesn't have gas, don't miss me.
No.
And after the whole Lolita Express, I'm not too into planes.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Watch those.
I've never been on a private
Exactly.
jet. I'm not in a hurry to ever get on
Me
one.
either. Yeah.
I'm like, who's asking me to be on this jet?
Things happen.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to show up on a manifesto 20 years later and be like, wait, what was that?
Flame or what's more important, a flame or a fuse?
A fuse, because you can make the flame. Yeah.
What's more, an anchor or a sail? Speaking about boats.
Anchor. I ain't got no need for a fucking sail. It's called engineering and technology. Get with it. I see someone in a sailboat. I'm like, what an idiot.
What are they? You have a button, and when you press this button, it does what you like it to. What does your button do? You like that one, right?
I don't think I should answer that question.
All right, a PG version, maybe.
My head doesn't really go to PG stuff. A button.
The button gets pressed. That's it. That's great.
Okay, a button gets pressed. Everything in my podcast is edited. The videos, the thumbnails, the titles. I don't have to think of anything.
Nice
That's exactly. I'd only have to record. That's it.
Great PG
Yeah.
answer. Have you ever had a trampoline?
I've never had one, but I've jumped on a lot of trampolines.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
Fish or hunt?
Fish.
If you were a caveman and you were hunting for food, what would you hunt? You can hunt any animal in the world, not a specific.
Yeah, whatever's going to get us fed.
Dance floor or VIP section?
Dance floor.
We're going to do a few more. Apple or oranges?
Apple. I have apples every day.
Do you sleep with the TV on?
Never.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I sleep with an eye mask. I'm really eye mask,
You're
mouth
Alex
tape.
Hormozi'd out.
You could say that. Yeah.
You have to-
I have the strip,
Oof.
the tape, and the eye mask. I know. I thought it would have been not heterosexual a year ago as well, but that was a big.
The nose thing I get. The eye mask, sure, I understand all of them.
Yeah. I mean, because especially with the health problems I had, that was a huge game changer, getting things right. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, you good?
There you go. Yep. This is actually not good. I need to make sure this is
Still on?
Yeah. This is literally more important than anything.
The audio.
Beautiful.
All right, still going. You're good.
All right.
Is that it?
I really need to go, yeah.
All right, man.
That was it. Bro,
This was a lot of fun, dude.
bro,
Thanks for having me.
so much for coming.
Of course, dude.
I hope you come again. Seriously.
Anytime. You let me
Of
know.
course.
I'm pretty close to you, so.
Very
It's easy.
close. Yeah.
You got to come by the studio, too.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
Of course, man.
I'm going to tag you on a bunch of social media posts. You're probably not going to accept any of the
I
collabs.
will accept them. Do it on Julian Dorey Podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, you can tag
okay,
both.
yeah.
I just on my smaller Instagram, my personal one.
Of course.
Sometimes, actually, no, put me on all those because I'm actually talking this episode. So yeah, I'll probably accept those. Yeah.
You're talking the entire episode. I only talk at the very end.
Yeah, no, that's no problem at all, man.
Oh,
I'm not picky.
Yeah, you want to tell them where they can find you?
Julian Dorey on YouTube, Julian Dorey Clips on YouTube, Julian Dorey Daily on YouTube, Best of JDP on YouTube. Those are the 4 channels. At Julian D. Dorey on Instagram. Agent Nate, work on getting that Julian Dorey. And then at Julian Dorey Podcast on Instagram. You can also get me at Real Julian Dorey on TikTok. We're starting to post there again. That was the original account. And then Spotify, I'm Julian Dorey.
All right.
Thanks so much, man.
Bro.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you, bro. Thanks for watching. Like, follow, subscribe. Peace.
Peace.
This is dedicated to all the kids like me.
It's an everyday process in trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Man, my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or a 45. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast, right? So I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more.